Good evening, everyone. This is the October 17th, 2023 meeting of the Carrboro Town Council. So tonight, in calling this meeting to order, I want to start by first thanking you all for being here at a full room tonight, and I appreciate that. I also know that in weeks like this, news from outside of our town limits can weigh heavily on us. I know that all of you were horrified by the attack on Israeli civilians by Hamas last week and the taking of Israeli and American hostages. I know you were horrified by the indiscriminate bombing and cutting off of water and electricity to Gaza civilians by Israel. Civilians should never be targets in armed conflict. And speaking for myself, I hope that our own leaders will press for a de-escalation and peace to safeguard the lives of the millions of people who are now at risk. But returning closer to home, I want to share that I'm holding in my thoughts our friends and neighbors here in Carrboro whose loved ones are being directly impacted by this ongoing violence. And I ask that you please hold them in your thoughts as well. We are so privileged to be here, though, tonight. So I want to thank you for taking time to come to Town Hall this evening, to be with your neighbors, and to participate together in local government while we're here. Liza Wolfe-Francis, our poet laureate, is going to start us off. Thanks, Liza.
Good evening, Town Council, Carrboro members, hello. I passed out a little flyer. Some of you may have gotten it. I want to first start with, we're having a poetry festival, speaking of local events. This weekend, it starts on Thursday. There's an event at Luna, so you can come eat dinner, listen to some poetry, hang out. Friday, there's an event at the Arts Center, and I will be in conversation with a couple of great poets. And then all Saturday, we've got stuff at the Carrboro Century Center. So please come. It's free and should be a good time. It's a way for people, I think, to join in community and also to be able to speak different opinions and feelings and all the things that poetry can allow us. So I wanted to say thank you for that lovely statement, Damon, because the world is heavy right now. And I have been doing these regular kind of eco-poetry writing groups in the MLK, in the Martin Luther King Park. And I wanted to read something I wrote at the last one, and we were allowed in the garden. It's actually like a locked community garden, but it's a lovely garden. And it was reminding me of some of the stuff going on with our earth, and I think it's all connected. And it also was really just lovely to be in nature and have that natural space, which we have so many of those spaces that I think are very soothing. So this is called Listening in the Garden, and I will leave you with that, and I hope you have a good meeting. It fell to me to tell the queen bee about the predicted death of the earth. She first rushed to the pop-in-your-mouth tomatoes, then to the asparagus hair poofed up wild like it had been under a dryer, to the thyme, basil, the cantaloupe with voles, having dived nose first into them to feast. The queen bee sat down with the voles and told them in a voice that drowned out all others, voice of cicadas, of blue stem and green burials, voice of deep brown earth. All the weeds gathered, wondering where they had found themselves. The deer came, sat outside the fence, and she dropped dried sunflower petals into their mouths. As the light began to settle, the bees gathered to buzz about the news, and I sat in the middle of this because I could no longer find myself or my sound, my voice. I no longer heard squeaking of children or hiss of squirrel. I sat in the middle to listen to what there was to do. I sat in the garden, in the forest, on the land, dirt under me, between my fingers. I sat to listen to the garden, the land, and the bees. Thank you.
Thank you, Liza. I'll just repeat what Liza shared about the West End Poetry Festival coming up this weekend, starting Thursday through Saturday, one of our signature events here in Carrboro. I encourage you all to get out and enjoy at least some of it. Madam Deputy Clerk, would you share the announcement of Actually, I have a proclamation. I forgot. Jumping ahead. Is John Hartman Brown here?
No, but I think Sidisi Herpa was supposed to be here to accept it.
Okay. Come on up. This is a proclamation for Minority Enterprise Development Week, and I appreciate John Hartman Brown, who's the town's Director of Economic Development, for requesting this proclamation on behalf of the staff. Whereas in 1983, the Minority Business Development Agency, an agency of the United States Department of Commerce, held the first Minority Enterprise Development Week. Since then, it has been observed annually by agencies and organizations at the federal, state, and local levels. And whereas Minority Enterprise Development Week, often referred to as MED Week, serves to celebrate the accomplishments and achievements of minority-owned businesses and recognize individuals who have excelled as entrepreneurs and business leaders. And whereas despite a history of institutional and systemic racism that restricted access to capital, property, markets, advertising, and other aspects of commerce and economic life, minority entrepreneurs have used their talents, ideas, passions, hard work, and tenacity to build successful business enterprises throughout our nation's history. And whereas according to the Census Bureau, Carrboro is home to at least 55 minority-owned businesses providing jobs to more than 1,200 people. And whereas Carrboro has commissioned a disparity study to assess, quantify, and evaluate the prevalence, significance, and scope of discrimination in its purchasing procedures and practices, if any, against minority and women-owned business enterprises. And whereas Carrboro's Economic Development Department has worked to promote minority-owned businesses through the BIPOC Business Roundtable discussions, the BAG Business Accelerator Program, and the development of a new business resource center. And whereas upcoming Carrboro programs include the One-on-One Business Coaching Program and the BIPOC Business Pop-Up Program. And whereas 2023 will see a variety of MedWeek events throughout the United States and North Carolina, including the Minority Business Development Agency's annual MedWeek Conference on October 22nd to 25th in Baltimore, and the North Carolina statewide Midweek Celebration and Expo on October 31st in Raleigh, which is free to attend. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Damon Siles, Mayor of the town of Carrboro, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim October 22nd through 28th, 2023, I think that's next week, right? To be Minority Enterprise Development Week in Carrboro. I encourage all residents to honor the achievements of minority business owners, to consider purchasing goods and services from minority-owned businesses, and to commit ourselves to creating a truly equitable economic system so that all people can share equally in the promise of our community and our nation. This is the 17th day of October. Thank you for being here. Comments? Tell people who you are.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Sidisi Herpa. I own and run the Kumon of Carrboro, so just down the street. I literally just ran here after class. I left my staff and I was like, bye, I'm going to going to town hall. Yeah, the last 3 years of having this business has been difficult, as it has been for everyone, and with COVID and owning a business and being a minority woman, and it is with the support from the city, so whether it's through grants or I'm a member of the business chamber, and getting opportunities to network, that I think that I've been able to have the opportunity to grow as I have, and if you guys have any children that need help, and I think that is anyway a serious concern with the state of education in Carrboro and Chapel Hill. And so, it's an after-school math and reading program, and, I've been working really intimately with all the families that have come my way to try to get their kids caught up and above grade level. So, thank you for this proclamation, and I'm looking forward to whatever comes with next week. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Deputy Clerk, now the announcement of upcoming meetings.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We have a few upcoming meetings, and we'll start with the Affordable Housing Advisory Commission, which is October 18th from 7 to 8:30 at Town Hall. We have the Climate Action Team meeting, which is October 19th, 7 to 9, and that'll be a virtual meeting. We have the Transportation Advisory Board meeting, which will be October 19th, 7:30 to 9:30 at the Town Hall. And then our Community Safety Task Force will meet October 23rd from 7 to 8:45 at the Century Center in room 23.
Thanks, Wendy, very much. I'll just note that the Board of Adjustments meeting, which was scheduled for October, is not going to be happening this month. They will be scheduling a November meeting of the board. So just be looking out for that if you have business before the Board of Adjustment. And are there any other meetings, town meetings to announce, Randy? And then Barbara?
The Central Pines Regional Council, which used to be Triangle J Council of Governments, is meeting next Wednesday evening.
I was just pointing to Randy.
Oh, gotcha. Thanks, Barbara. Thank you for that, Randy. And yes, the Triangle J, I keep trying to get used to the new name, Central Pines. And I just will note before we proceed to our public comment period that our Deputy Clerk, Wendy Welsh, is who you see with us this evening and is sitting in for our clerk, who's out helping in the lobby. And then our Assistant Town Manager, Marie Parker, is sitting in for our Town Manager, Richard White, who was delayed this evening and couldn't be here with us. But thank you both for being here. All right, next is a public comment. We'll receive a public comment on items that are not on our agenda tonight. I do have a few people signed up to speak, and I see them sitting right up here in the front row. So I'm going to start, I'll just go in the order that I have you, and I'll start with David Mason. Welcome, Mr. Mason. And for those of you who are signed up to speak, just know that we do ask folks to keep their comments to 3 minutes or less, and I'll have a little timer here to make the sound.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dave Mason. I stay at 615 Carl Drive, and I've been living in Chapel Hill for a little bit more than 80 years. I am currently serving as the president of the Lincoln High School Alumni Association. Our association recommends that Carrboro honor Braxton Foushee for his outstanding service to the town of Carrboro and civil rights. At the age of 15, Braxton engaged in a voter registration initiative, working with Miss Rebecca Clark to assist elderly black citizens in Carrboro. They replaced the chair of the Orange County Board of Election, addressing voter suppression. Braxton has been active in the labor movement since 1961, advocating for equal pay and fair treatment for marginalized groups. Encouraged by Clark, he ran for the Board of Aldermen in 1969, securing election with the support of the town's black residents. In 1970, Braxton petitioned the Department of Justice to investigate the civil rights implications of Jane Cates' murder. 50 years later, he played a role in reopening the case and establishing a memorial on UNC's campus. At UNC's hospital, he led efforts to desegregate black cafeteria and hospital workers. As the first black member of the Carrboro Board of Aldermen and Mayor Pro Tem in 1976, Braxton played a key role in electing Carrboro's first black mayor, Robert Drakeford. They addressed environmental issues and fought against police aggression, diversifying the police department in 1979. Braxton's contributions extended to the initiation of Carrboro's bus transportation service in 1980 and the creation of Hank Anderson Park. Over 54 years in elected leadership and service positions, he became the longest-serving public official in Chapel Hill and Carrboro. He also served on the Owasso Board for 13 years and participated in identifying black historical locations. It is our hope, prayer, and desire for the town of Carrboro to honor Braxton Duncan Foushee by renaming an existing street with his name, preferably a street with the name of a noted white supremacist. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mason, for being here. Mrs. Mason, are you speaking on the same topic?
But a difference.
Okay, come on up and then we'll. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing us to speak tonight. Councilman, we're honored to be here to speak on behalf of a well-deserving person in the community that we've known all our life. I'm not going to tell like David how old he is, but we've known him all our life. So, and my daughter, Danita Mason, is traveling, and so she left this message. She told me to give it to you. You know, it used to be the parent told the child. But now it's the child telling me, so I have to be obedient, right? And so I'm going to read the letter that she wrote. Danita Mason Hogan is traveling today and could not be here. So I am here to request that the town of Carrboro honor the lifelong service of Mr. Braxton Foushee by issuing a proclamation for a Braxton Foushee Day of Service. Each year on this day, organizations in the town of Chapel Hill which showcase their service work in the community and offer information about what they do and provide opportunities for the citizens of Carrboro, established citizens, and to those new to the area to follow the example of Braxton Foushee and become involved in service work which builds on the legacy of service and progression for the town of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, for which Braxton Foushee has been engaged with so over 68 consecutive years. So thank you for allowing me to speak about a wonderful individual that consistently works hard to correct some of the injustices that has gone on in Chapel Hill and Carrboro.
Thank you, Mrs. Mason. Next on the list, I have Herman Foushee. Are you here, Herman? Didn't see him. Oh, here he is. He's hiding. Come on up, Herman. Welcome.
Good evening, members of the council, Mayor Damon, and citizens, and those involved in the naming committee for naming the street after Braxton. My name is Herman Morrell Foushee, born and raised here in Chapel Hill and Carrboro. In fact, I lived on East Main Street next to the Church of God my junior and senior years in high school at Chapel Hill High. I come before you this evening to ask you to name the street Braxton Foushee Street. After getting the gymnasium named after Nate Davis Sr. and the gym floor named for Fred Battle in Chapel Hill, the Hank Anderson, Fred Battle, Braxton, James Britton, Yanni Chapman, Nate Davis Breakfast Club said our next objective is to get Greensboro Street in Carrboro named after Braxton, and the Owasso building named for Fred Battle and Braxton. I asked Councilwoman Foushee how to make that happen. She told me to contact Mayor Damon. I'm contacting you this evening, so putting you on notice.
I've also contacted me. So.
I happen to be president of both the Hank Anderson Breakfast Club and the NAACP, and both organizations are supporting what I'm saying this evening. I'm personally supporting the naming because I was working in Washington, D.C. Back for Jimmy Carter at the U.S. Department of Energy. I got to know Braxton during his third term as an alderman. Braxton and then Mayor Robert Drakeford used to come to Washington, D.C. to meet with me to get involved in national energy policy. And by managers Jack Daly, Bill Peacock, and Secretary of Energy Jim Schlesinger to grant them funds for the town of Carrboro and the North Carolina Conference of Black Mayors. At that time, town of Carrboro's budget was tight. So Mayor Drakeford and Brax would pay their own way, but they would stay at my house, and so I would lodge them and feed them, to help them out. Braxton has been one hell of a servant over 50, 60 years, and has never asked for anything in return. In fact, others will talk specifics this evening about watching him over all these years, all the things that he's done, and all the people and the lives that he's touched on a daily basis. And he still is doing it, on the planning board, and still is working as the vice chair of the Hank Anderson Breakfast Club. So this recognition is overdue. It would take me until tomorrow evening and longer to tell you all of Braxton's accomplishments and reasons that this honor should be bestowed upon him. I'll leave you with the 3 R's this evening. See, you only gave me 3 minutes, so I'm going to give you all 3 R's, okay? Respect. You're showing that, entertaining his name tonight. Recognition. You're showing that by recognizing that the street should be named for Braxton. And remembering. You're doing that by being able to see the name on the street as we drive by in our cars, ride our bicycles, or walking, or crawling. Thank you.
Thank you, Herman. Appreciate you coming out tonight. Mr. Mason, Mrs. Mason. Council members, would you assent to authorizing me to talk with the town manager about what our actual options are here in terms of street namings and so on? I know that we have some wide latitude in terms of proclaiming days of service, that kind of recognition, but more technical things around streets and facilities, I think I need to check with the town manager's office. Is that okay with council members?
Please do.
I see everybody nodding ahead, so I'm going to consider that consensus. Anne Marie will pick this up in our next meeting. Thanks, everyone. Eleazar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just wanted to forecast for the council that I am working on a resolution for a day of service in the name of Braxton Foushee. Just expect a draft of that resolution in your inboxes over the next couple of days.
A lot of work going on here tonight. Okay, that sounds good.
Yes, Braxton is one of my heroes, so I believe well deserves all the recognition.
Okay. So
Thank
I
you,
just
Mr. Mayor.
encourage you, Eleazar, to be sure to work with your colleagues on getting previews of that resolution. Great. I don't have anyone else signed up to speak on a matter that is not on our printed agenda. Everyone else here to speak on later matters? Okay. Right. Madam Manager, the consent agenda, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. We have 2 items on the consent agenda this evening. The first item is the approval of meeting minutes from the town council retreats held on August 27th, 2022, December 10th, 2022, and January 21st, 2023, and town council meetings held on February 14th, 21st, and 28th of 2023. The second item is an amendment to add a town council meeting to the town meeting calendar. The purpose of this agenda item is for town council to amend the 2023 town meetings calendar to add an additional town council meeting on November 1st, 2023.
Pull number 1. Okay. So we're pulling both items? Okay. Sammy, go ahead.
Yeah, just apologies. I haven't gotten around to reading all of them except for August 27th and December 10th.
So those are the 2 that are ready?
Those are the 2 that I can move right now.
Okay, so the motion to approve item number 1 for August 27th and December 10th. Second by Susan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item passes unanimously. Randy, number 2.
Yeah, we have family plans that have been long in progress for November 1st. And so as I'm not available, I do not appreciate the town adding the meeting that day. I would like us to withdraw that request.
I will say that I am also going to be out of town that date, but I'm actually fine with the council doing business without me. Madam Manager, do you know what you anticipate being on that agenda yet, or is that to be determined? Are these relatively light items, or there's a lot on that agenda?
Meeting opportunity.
We do have remote meeting opportunities, but that doesn't solve Randy's issue, which is previous plans with her husband. I mean, another option is, so one option is we proceed and just understand that sometimes council members can't attend meetings, and that's fine with me. Another option is to poll the council for additional dates to add to the calendar. How did you like?
Oh, never mind.
How would you like to proceed, Eleazar?
I'm in line with, given that it's already been stated we have a lot to do on the agenda. I'm in line with just moving forward, and I'm okay with moving the item so that we have a meeting on the November 1st.
Okay, we'll continue discussion, but let me get a second. Not hearing a second. All right. So it sounds like I need a motion to poll the council for additional meeting dates.
So moved.
Moved by Sammy, seconded by Barbara to poll the council for additional meeting dates. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Matter passes unanimously. Yeah, go ahead, Barbara.
And so the November 1st meeting, which is no more, and then supposedly we're only supposed to have one more meeting in November, which would be November 14th. We will not meet on the 7th because of Election Day. And so,
And then there will probably be I believe there's a December 14th meeting on the calendar. Although that's, getting in toward the end of the year. But we'll figure out what other dates are available. We only pulled 2 dates, if I remember correctly, so we can find some other ones to figure out options.
I think it was the 1st and the 2nd, November 1st and 2nd.
Okay, thanks, y'all. All right, next item, Madam Manager.
We have one item for public hearing tonight. That is a public hearing on the town of Carboro's use of CDBG-CV funds for emergency housing assistance. The purpose of this item is to hold a public hearing to receive comment on the town's use of Community Development Block Grant Coronavirus for emergency housing assistance funds. Anne Marie Vanneman is here if needed. There's no formal presentation or report that will be coming later, but she's available to answer any questions if there are any.
Great. And if I understand, there's no action required by council tonight. This is simply to receive the report or to hold a public hearing. So since this is a legislatively required hearing, I'm just going to make clear that I am now opening the public hearing. No presentation from staff. Are there any speakers from the public who wish to comment on this item? This is a requirement, by the way. This is a grant we received during the coronavirus epidemic to support local governments in paying for things like emergency housing assistance. We have some additional funds available from that grant that we very much want to spend on emergency housing assistance. And part of the requirement for that grant is that we hold a public hearing to make sure everybody's good with that. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone in the audience. Anyone from council have questions or comments? Susan?
Thank you, Damon. Just one quick comment. I want to thank Anne Marie and Malia for all of their work with this emergency housing during the pandemic and during this transition out of the pandemic. It's hard to think of anything really that we do at the local government level more important than making sure people have housing stability at a time that things are very, very unstable. So I know the department your team has been understaffed, and just know that your work is really appreciated. Thank you both.
Thanks for that, Susan. Thanks, Anne Marie. All right. As I said, there's no, I'm going to close the public hearing, now closed. There's no action required by council, so we've met our obligation to hold the public hearing. And I think I have some forms to sign, perhaps, once Anne Marie gets those to me. So, all right. Thanks very much. Okay. Moving on, Madam Manager.
The last item we have for this evening is the update to the Bowling Creek Greenway Conceptual Master Plan. The purpose of this agenda item is to present the results from the community engagement process for phases 3 and 4 of the Bowling Creek Greenway. and review for new technical and regulatory challenges. A resolution updating the plan is provided for the Town Council's consideration. Presenting on this item is Kat Lazorko, Communications and Engagement Director. We also will have Trish McGuire, the Planning Director, giving a brief overview as well.
While Kat's getting set up, I'll just offer a very brief bit of background here so that folks, just a little bit about the purpose of this item, why it's on the agenda tonight. Because I know some community members have expressed concern that the town has done all the technical analysis that needs to be done, or that we're reviewing an engineered plan, or that we're authorizing a budget allocation for a capital project. And that's just not where we are in this process. We're here tonight to address the last remaining question in the Bowling Creek Greenway concept plan. That is, which Greenway route is the most preferred route? When the council adopted the concept plan in 2009, they directed there should be additional public input on phases 3 and 4 of the plan. In particular, the various alignment alternatives that were evaluated as part of that process. Since that time, the town has been implementing various other parts of the plan. So as all of you know, Phase 1A, which is in Wilson Park, and Phase 1B, which is up near Chapel Hill High School, have been completed. A portion of Phase 2, or what we call the Jones Creek Greenway Trail, is going to start construction next year. Of course, parts of the plan we haven't done yet, like until now, the effort to gather additional public input on Phases 4, is where we are now in this process. So I just wanted to receive the presentation from staff. We have both Kat and Trish with us here tonight. Then we will move right to receiving comments from the public. And then there will be opportunity for council members to ask questions, make comments, and so on. Thank you, Kat, for being here.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the public, I'll introduce myself. I'm Kat Lazorko. I'm Communication and Engagement Director for the town of Carrboro. And so for tonight's update, we are responding to the council direction from March 28th when you asked for a public engagement process to be undertaken on the alternative alignments included in the 2009 Bowling Creek Greenway Conceptual Master Plan. Specifically, public input was sought on alternative alignments for phases 3 and 4 as described in the plan. This process would be conducted using guiding plans and engagement tools informed by the Bowling Creek Greenway Plan, the Inclusive Carrboro Communications and Community Engagement Plan, and the One Orange Racial Equity Framework. Concurrent to the engagement process, an evaluation for any technical or regulatory challenges was also occurring. So tonight, I will present the results from the community engagement process, and Planning Director Trish McGuire will cover the technical area. Then we'll both be available to answer your questions. A resolution updating the plan is provided for Town Council's consideration. So we'll begin with an overview of the process. We began this effort by developing an outline of how this engagement process would be conducted. Town Manager Richard White shared his outline with the Town Council on May 19th. The outline of our engagement strategy was the Community Engagement Framework, which stated, in addition to broad outreach, the town's engagement will rely on strategies to ensure we have participation from underrepresented communities. Survey questions that were used in the 2009 engagement process will be repeated. Easy-to-read maps and graphics will be essential, and we will rely on tools from our town engagement toolbox, including the website, social media, town information centers, and online and paper surveys. So preparations were underway in May, with engagement occurring from June to early October. The engagement framework outlined a plan to go where the people are, including engagement with underserved communities, engagement with the broader community, and outreach at town events. We encourage people to take self-guided or virtual tours of the area, participate in an online story map, have an option to use a Wikimap survey and take the Greenway survey and offer comments. Information and surveys were provided in various formats and across multiple languages. As a review of public input processes, here is a snapshot of what occurred in 2009 and then this year. In 2009, 2 public open houses were held in May and September and attended by 72 people to receive input. The majority of May 2009 workshop attendees preferred the Creekside Trail alignment. When engaged at a September 2009 workshop, the majority of participants preferred the Creekside Trail as well. In 2023, the town led a 3-month engagement process using a community-wide survey, repeating the questions from the 2009 process. Using a variety of outreach tools, the town received 1,769 responses to this survey and more than 600 comments. The majority of survey respondents also expressed support for the Creekside alignment. And now, a brief summary of our engagement techniques. This slide offers an overview of our town's engagement tools to help spread the story and get people involved. There are social media channels, our community partners, local media, and regional news media, and postcards and signage, all of which work together to tell the story and drive people to the survey. The project webpage housed all the project information, and it's worth noting that it received exceptional engagement over this time period with more than 2,700 views. It also consistently ranked among the top viewed web pages on the town website from July to October. A story map was provided on the project webpage to guide people on a virtual walking tour of the alignments with photographs of various landmarks and features along the way. A wiki mapping survey was also featured on the project webpage to allow visitors to drop pins on the map as they shared comments about the alignments and features of the area. And there was, of course, the community survey, offered online in English and Spanish and with downloadable surveys in multiple languages. The photo here to the right shows the paper surveys that were available at the Willow Creek laundromat. This slide represents an overview represents an overview of outreach in the community and the various events where town staff made public outreach about the Greenway survey. We kept to the plan outlined in the engagement framework shared early on with the town council to conduct a process to go where the people are. A few pictures coming up here to share signage, posters, and flyers that were used around town. We used a variety of media and worked to post these in places where people gather, including bus stops. When we weren't using our large Spanish language banner at festivals, we stationed it at the Carrboro headquarters of El Centro Hispano. More photos here of some of our outreach, including at the Rena Community Center with Rosie Caldwell, pictured ready to hand out flyers to parents picking up their children from an after-school program. More photos depict the broad dissemination of signage, from yard signs to use of our outdoor information kiosks. This project was covered by local and regional media, and here are a few screenshots from those stories. We posted across social media about the Greenway survey and asked community groups to repost to their audiences as well. These images show our range of community outreach. And continuing to illustrate the engagement process, here are a few more photos. This was a townwide effort with multiple departments actively involved, including the planning department. And I'll note that town staff worked really well together to help get the word out about the Greenway project. Here you see our Chief Race and Equity Officer staffing a table at a recent Carrboro in Motion event, as well as Recreation and Parks with communication and engagement staff who teamed up at the Carrboro Music Festival. As a final note, not only did we attend events, we planned events to target underserved communities through Carrboro in Motion. We organized 3 Carrboro in Motion events over this engagement process. Toward its goal of equitable engagement, this effort placed emphasis on reaching those who are most often marginalized in these conversations. Town staff worked with El Centro Hispano and the Refugee Community Partnership to conduct canvassing to increase survey participation among immigrants and refugees. Multilingual paper surveys in English, Spanish, Korean, Burmese, Karen, and Chinese were also provided at the Carrboro Century Center, the Willow Creek Laundromat, and engagement tables at community events. Outreach was made in the town's historically Black neighborhoods with a staff team going door to door to drop off literature bags, which included a letter from the mayor about the Greenway survey and a postcard inviting survey participation. Staff also received assistance in distributing information about the survey to residents through the Rena Community Center, St. Paul AME Church, and the Chapel Hill Carrboro NAACP. Additionally, town staff provided survey information to participants of Community Safety Task Force listening sessions held at the Jackson Center and IFC. Many thanks to our community partners shown here, Daniela, May, and Amelia, as well as many others. And now for the takeaways, what we heard from the community. This slide presents information that was requested by the council about the community preference for a trail alignment. For the preferred trail alignment question, considering responses from all survey takers who answered this question, 1,735 responses, a majority prefer the Creekside Trail alignment, with about 66% of respondents selecting Creekside. Another look at the survey results for Carrboro-only residents, and the results are nearly the same. In the preferred trail alignment question, separating responses from those who live in Carrboro, 1,253 responses, a majority or 66% favor the Creekside alignment. And some additional takeaways from the survey. Obstacles for ability to use trails in Carrboro for a majority of respondents is lack of connections, followed by unsafe street crossings, accessibility concerns, lack of information. People said they use the corridor primarily for exercise, followed by getting to and from places. A majority of respondents expressed support for the Greenway plan. Community survey responses totaled more than 600. There were also comments provided on the wiki mapping platform. Summaries of these comments are in your agenda packets and also posted online for the public. So data taken from a question asking about the closest intersection to their home address resulted in a geocoding analysis of respondents showing participation across Carrboro town limits. And here you can see the geocoded map, thanks to our GIS department for GIS division of the planning department for providing that. And we'll also note that most respondents, or 76% of the people who took the survey, live in Carrboro. More takeaways, respondents, and this is Carrboro specific. Represented a diverse range of ages with a slightly higher number in the 35 to 44 age group. 26%, followed by 45 to 54, that was 22%, and then 25 to 34-year-olds was about 18%. Respondents reported as 51% female, 47% male, and 2% other. Respondents identified as white at 83%, followed by Asian, Pacific Islander at 6%, Hispanic at 5%, Black at 2%, and multiple ethnicities or other at 3%. The primary language spoken at home among respondents was English, followed by Spanish, Korean, Burmese, Chinese, and Korean. And as a near to the end slide, a quick review of engagement by the numbers with a screenshot of the news flash that announced the Which Way for the Greenway engagement process. That occurred in June, and that single news flash had 157 page views, which is very much higher than normal. Just looking at these numbers, just in summary, I mean, I feel very pleased with the results from our process, and I hope that you will feel confident with the data that we're presenting to you tonight. Many thanks to all who participated. As a note here, survey results will be posted to our project webpage and shared through town information channels. We will also make an effort to connect back with survey respondents to provide these results, as well as any town actions moving forward on this topic. So our public information will be provided in multiple languages, much in the same way that we sought their participation in the first place. So many, many thanks to the community for participating in this process. And now we will hear the technical review from Planning Director Trish McGuire.
Thank you, Kat. Welcome,
Good
Trish.
evening, everyone.
Evening.
So the very different approach, obviously, from the description that Kat provided so well. The staff working with the town engineer, Sungate Design Group, and Axiom Environmental reviewed the master plan, the conceptual master plan for technical or regulatory challenges that may have arisen since the plan was adopted. So an update on that regulatory context essentially was conducted. We were looking at town, state, and federal regulations related to environmental conditions, endangered species, special flood hazard areas, streams, wetlands, fish, and wildlife. We'll note that as well as the context of other users out there, for example. So the creekside alignment does cross the Norfolk Southern Railroad. Coordination with the railroad to obtain permission for any crossings would be required. It would require to have concurrence there. We did not identify any regulatory roadblocks to any of the alternative alignments. There are many layers of permitting and additional detailed data collection associated with the permitting processes, which were the case when the plan was written and are the case still today. We also reviewed the Carolina North Development Agreement and the restrictive covenants associated with the conservation areas that were established following the approval of the agreement, and moving forward with phases 3 and 4 do involve approvals in accordance with those documents. Happy to answer any questions, and thanks very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Trish. I'm going to call on the town clerk to bring me a list of speakers. I also thank him for turning down the AC.
Got a freezing here. Where the blanket?
It is. Thank you.
All right. One thing that the town clerk noted to me a little while ago is that there are a handful of speakers here tonight who brought their kids with them. And I wonder if in the interest of making it possible for them to get to bed when they need to get to bed, if we might just start with those speakers. So if you're in this room, and I think there may be some folks out in the other room or in the lobby, if you are signed up to speak and you brought kids with you and you would like to be bumped up, I'm happy to do that, but you're going to have to identify yourself for me. So just, if you raise your hand out there, and I'm happy to identify you as one of those people. Okay, so what's your name? Lisa Dunn, right? And Ryan Byers. And anybody, if the clerk can hear me, or Kat, if you could find out if there's any other speakers with kids here who would like to be bumped up, I'm happy to do that. So why don't we start with Lisa Dunn. And while Lisa's coming up, I just want to share a few comments about just kind of the usual discussion guidelines, encourage folks to follow those guidelines. It essentially comes down to being respectful of your neighbors and everybody else who's here to speak and to listen. I ask that you direct your comments to the council as a body rather than to individuals or to people in the audience. And then we'll, of course, hear your comment and move on to the next speaker. I also just want to say we don't often get nights where we have a little bit of overflow, and so this is a great sign for participation here. But I think some of you know it can be a little intimidating to come up and stand at that podium and address the council, especially for first-timers or for those of us who are a little shy. I certainly remember the first time I stood at that podium and addressed the council many years ago, and I was terrified. So I just want to encourage y'all to keep that in mind, that not everybody is here with the same level of kind of confidence and experience speaking before us. And just encourage you to avoid being disruptive and just be respectful of your neighbors. Finally, as always, we ask that people keep their comments to 3 minutes or less because we do have so many people signed up to speak. I am going to be more stringent with that than I usually am. So you'll hear the very pleasant jingling tone on my phone when the 3 minutes are up, and I'll ask you to wrap up. All right? Okay, Lisa Dunn, welcome.
Much. Good evening, Town Council. My name is Lisa Dunn. I'm a Carrboro resident, and I'm here tonight in support of the Bowling Creek Greenway plan with the Creekside alignment. That was a great presentation. Thank you for that to the town staff. I'm here with 2 of my 3 sons and speak for my whole family, my husband and other son included, that we're very excited about the Bowling Greenway, and we thank you all for your work and vision in making this happen over many years. I also want to thank the town for the innumerable hours dedicated to making this happen. Like everyone in this room, my family treasures the beauty of the forest. It feels like a hidden gem because really it is. Only those of us with the privilege of street address or social networks are using the forest trails regularly. And this unequal access of a public space is not what Carrboro represents. We, the families of Carrboro, want a town that advances equity and welcomes all. And the Bowling Creek survey showed that the Greenway with the Creekside alignment would be more welcoming to more people. That matters, and you are doing that work to make it happen. Thank you for building a more equitable community by increasing access to our beautiful Bowling Forest with the Creekside alignment in the Bowling Creek Greenway. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Next is going to be Ryan Byers. Welcome, Ryan.
In order.
And one of the kids.
Hi, y'all. I'm Ryan Byers. I live in Carrboro. I brought my daughter, one of my 3 kids. Some of you may know Arlie from the neighborhood or from around town. We are here tonight speaking in favor of the Bowling Creek Greenway in Carrboro. I just want to take a quick minute and say thank you so much to Kat and the rest of the staff at the town who did a really amazing job. I'm really glad that the town decided to do the public engagement internally rather than farming that out to somebody. They did a great job. I'll let Arlie tell you why she would like to have the Bowling Creek Greenway.
I want the Bowling Creek Greenway because we can get places that we want to go without using a car.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Arlie. Good luck with bedtime. Okay. Did we have anybody else here who wanted to get bumped up for the bedtime reason? Youth bedtime. Y'all. Bedtime reasons. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. So I'm just going to start in order at the top of my list. I'll just give you all a preview. We have about 40 people signed up to speak, which is great. And I'm just going to go in order. So I'm going to start with Diane Robertson. Welcome, Diane.
Good evening.
Evening.
I live at 405 Waterside Drive in Carrboro, and I have lived there since 1991. I'd like to address the following: authentic community engagement, governance and due diligence, and living into the town values. Those who are opposed to a creekside alignment for the Greenway are not against greenways. And we are not a small number of loud individuals, but rather we are being demeaned by a few social media influencers who restate misinformation as if it is based in fact because it fits their narrative and goals. Despite a public process with good intentions, the process was anecdotal at best. It was not a representative sample of the 16,000 members who live in this community, and you could actually see that from what was presented and how the breakdowns showed up. I know that you have received over 100 letters that are 2-to-1 in opposition to a Greenway alignment along Bowling Creek, and that too is anecdotal. I'm sorry to be in a position to say that I feel like the council has ignored science, but is willing to spend taxpayer money on outside expensive consultants before doing the basic in-house research that is irresponsible. And we saw that from the technical review, that in-house research is very limited and there are a lot of unanswered questions. The council's actions on this matter has managed to be a force for division rather than creating community by building consensus. You recently received letters from Tom Coors, president of Friends of Bowling Creek, and Representative Pricey Harrison, challenging the efficacy of a creekside alignment, as well as presentations from reputable stream ecologists and naturalists about the harm that this will have. Engineers have raised the most basic questions that should be understood, but this information was not shared and was not part of a public process for the community to even make an informed decision about what alignment would be best. Those supporting the destruction of the natural area in Bowland Forest have even managed to take over the local Sierra Club and extract an endorsement for a concrete road along the creek. This was truly a small group of an executive committee of which only one member actually lives in Carrboro. The vote was in opposition to the members of the committee who did not see that the Sierra Club should intervene between the elected officials and its residents. John Muir, I believe, would have voted with the minority. The insistence on destroying the riparian buffer is a conquest and colonizer point of view. Our country is built on the theft of land, resources, and stolen labor. The abuse of resources to support a small group that can only be defined as privileged is not surprising, but certainly disappointing in a town that likes to be positioned as progressive. The planet would be in better shape today if we learned to live with the environment rather than conquer and extract from it. The vote taken tonight, if it is to favor a route that will destroy the natural area along Bowling Creek, will be done by a lame duck council that will not be responsible for the fallout of this project. This council was elected by about 3,000 people of the 16,000 registered voters in Carrboro and should bring some humility to the decisions being made that will impact future generations.
Thank you,
I
Diane.
hope the council will consider that their aspirations to make decisions based on equity and addressing the climate crisis should be measured at the highest level, and a vote for this project does not meet the mark.
Thanks very much, Diane. Next is, so applause counts as disruption. I'll just remind folks that we're not doing disruption tonight. Appreciate your cooperating with that. Next in the list is Catherine Frey. Catherine, are you here? And then I'll just, as a preview, coming next is then Patrick McDonough, Brian Crawford, and Samuel Smith. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak briefly. My name is Catherine Frey. I live on Alabama Avenue in Carrboro. And a couple of years ago, I served as the co-chair for the comprehensive plan. At the time that the town council was considering adoption of that plan, I spoke before you and at that time asked you why greenways were not included because they were so critical to our climate action focus. And since then, I've been so pleased to see the council take this issue up again and reconsider it to complete the outreach process that was stalled in 2009. So I just wanted to say thank you for taking that step forward on the goals of our comprehensive plan. And thank you also to staff. One of the neighborhood walkabouts was one of the first times that I've seen town staff in the neighborhood where I live. So I really appreciated that. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Catherine. Next is Patrick McDonough, Brian Crawford, Samuel Smith. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Patrick McDonough, and I've lived at 103 Raven Lane for 14 years, which means that my opinion is just as valuable as a renter who moved here yesterday. In 2021, I led the team that developed the conceptual design and cost estimates for the Long Branch Trail in Winston-Salem. The Biden administration reviewed our design and estimates, concluded that they were done correctly, and awarded the city of Winston-Salem $6.5 million to build the trail, which will cover 75% of the cost. The city will contribute $2.1 million. The town of Chapel Hill is building the Morgan Creek Greenway West, the Morgan Creek West Greenway for a total of $2.37 million with 54% federal funding. The town will contribute $1.1 million. Raleigh is building the 3.6-mile Briar Creek Greenway Loop for $9.4 million. This alignment is in a much wetter area and therefore requires more expensive boardwalk treatments than would be required for Bowling Creek. The city of Raleigh hasn't been decided yet, will likely contribute $2.8 to $4.2 million. In each case, the local government building the Greenway is leveraging federal funding that is more abundant than ever under the recently passed infrastructure bill. The Bowling Creek Greenway will be eligible for the same funds. Over the last 5 years, Carrboro's capital budget has been in the range of $58 to $68 million. Using techniques like those in Winston-Salem, I developed a midpoint estimate of the 3-mile Bowling Creek Greenway to be about $6 million. Link at the bottom for anyone who likes the math. If Carrboro leverages federal funding, the upper level total cost of the town will be about $2.7 million, which is less than 4% of the town's capital budget. Completing the Bowling Creek Greenway using the Creekside alignment will be very affordable within our town capital budget, and our local cost per mile is likely to be lower than projects being built by other North Carolina communities nearby. I enthusiastically encourage you to select the Creekside alignment this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Next is Brian Crawford, Samuel Smith, and Nancy Lobas. Welcome, Brian.
Good evening. My name is Brian Crawford. I'm here to speak in support of the Bowling Creek Greenway Creekside alignment as well. I want to thank the town staff for doing all this work to get us to this point. This was a tremendous lift, and I think it's a tremendous effort that's been done. I also want to thank the town council, specifically the mayor, to unstick this sticky situation and get us to this point. When presented with this opportunity to talk about this Greenway, I am always reminded of this image, which is actually a famous image that you might have seen, but it's actually by a famous professor, doctor named Dr. Merritt, I believe. But she asked some kids to draw their route to school. And on the left, you can see the children who are driven to school. And on the right, you can see the children who have the opportunity to walk to school. They are starkly different. The Bowling Creek Greenway will enable children to walk and bike to school in the dozens, if not hundreds, potentially thousands over the lifetime. Please proceed with haste. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next is Samuel Smith, then Nancy Lobas, then Cristobal Palmer. Is Samuel Smith? There you are. Thank you. Welcome.
So yeah, first time, so I do need some notes.
The tried and true tactic. Love a note.
Hi, I'm Sam Smith. I moved here, I'm a Carrboro resident, and I moved here a few years ago with my wife, and we have since had a child. I'm here talking on behalf of my whole family. I'm here tonight to ask the council to vote in favour of the motion to select the Creekside alignment as preferred option to build out the Bowling Greenway. I'd also ask the council to be proactive in moving to the next steps of the implementation so that we don't have to have this conversation again in the 2030s. There are many great reasons to support this project. I'm sure you'll hear quite a few tonight. I primarily want to focus on pedestrian safety. Pedestrian fatalities across the country have doubled since 2010 and have increased by a third since 2020. And this rapid increase in pedestrian fatalities has actually wiped out 50 years of progress, and we now have more pedestrian fatalities today than we did in the 1970s. And for every fatality, there is countless injuries, and for all those countless injuries, there are countless more close calls. I've actually had 2 close calls here in the past 6 months. There's been numerous studies as to why there are all these pedestrian fatalities, why it's increasing so rapidly. Some are saying it's because of the cars are getting bigger. Some are saying it's smartphones and social media. The truth is that they haven't determined the cause. And even if they can determine the causes, you never know if they're going to find a solution. But I think one thing we can do at the local level is build infrastructure that better separates cars from other road users. And the Greenway is one of the more effective ways of doing that because cars are not allowed on greenways. I'm not a betting man, but I would put dollars on not many people being hit by cars on greenways once they get built. Connecting people to each other and to places without cars is liberating. Families and children can travel from home to their friends' homes, to their schools, and to their parks in a completely car-free environment, mostly car-free environment. And these benefits will compound when Chapel Hill builds out their connection. So they have the Chapel Hill Greenway. They're going to connect it up with ours at Estes eventually. And that will allow both Chapel Hill and Carrboro residents to jointly benefit across. I could one day imagine a teenager from Carrboro hopping on the bike with their friends to ride all the way down during their summer vacation to catch a movie at University Place, because all of that will be connected. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sam. Next is Nancy Lovas and Cristobal Palmer, then Nick Lytle. Welcome, Nancy.
Good evening, Town Council. Thanks for entertaining this Greenway idea. My name is Nancy Levis, and I've been a Carrboro resident for almost 4.5 years. I loved it so much that I decided to stay put forever. Thank you for considering this Greenway resolution. Thank you to all of the hard work that the town staff have done over the past several months. I cycled to and from everywhere, and I have seen the yard signs all over Carrboro. And get encouraged every time I see it. I support this Creekside alignment first because it provides a safe, car-free route for walking and cycling. Nobody should witness their mother getting hit by a car as pedestrians about 2 years ago. And the Greenway will provide a safe route, echoing my fellow citizen who just spoke. I'm personally excited about being able to more safely bike to destinations in Chapel Hill without fearing for my life on the Estes extension between North Greensboro and Umstead Drive. I'm also really excited about the opportunities for environmental renewal that the Creekside alignment can offer. I'm recently into native plants, replacing my garden with native plants. So I'm excited about that possibility of returning native plants to the Bowling Creek banks to restore this beautiful place that I love to go and escape from the pressures of daily life. So thank you again for working to put into action Carrboro's values of accessibility, connectivity, and climate justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Next is Cristobal Palmer, then Nick Lytle, and then Zoe Little. Welcome, Cristobal.
Hi, my name is Cristobal Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and thank you, town staff, for that presentation. I'm here, unfortunately, my wife could not be here because she is taking care of our 2 young children who are young enough that they seem to be constantly sniffly and coughing and etc. So I'll try not to get it on you. But I will share something that she wrote, which is that, quoting here, "I do hope that our town moves forward with completing the Greenway. As a mother of 2 very young kids, I'm excited about more options for them to safely enjoy the outdoors in a stroller, on a bike, or on foot over the coming years. I look forward to using this major community amenity soon." So I and my wife would both like to encourage the town to move with all due speed, not just select the Creekside alignment, but to go ahead and move forward with further steps in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristobal. The next speaker is Nick Lytle, then Zoe Little, then Maria Palmer. Welcome, Nick.
Good evening. My name is Nick Lytle. I'm a resident off of West Main and member of the DSA chapter here in Carrboro. I'm here today to present our joint effort in support of the Bowling Creek Greenway. For the past year, our group has collaborated with Next, Triangle Blog, and other local groups to advocate for the town council to make a decision on the alignment for the next phases of the Greenway. Of the options presented, our groups are united in our support of the Creekside alignment, the one backed by nearly 2/3 of survey respondents. We've hosted events, we've written articles, we've engaged community members, we have put posters up, and then we put posters up again. We have knocked on over 1,000 doors, many in communities who do not usually speak at town council meetings. We shared with these community members our petition, which I'm going to read aloud as follows. We support a Bowling Creek path for all of Carrboro, a Bowling Creek Greenway connecting Chapel Hill High School, Sewell Elementary School, and Wilson Park to University Mall and Franklin Street would take thousands of car trips off our roads, improve student safety, empower every member of Carrboro to access our beautiful natural areas. We asked Carrboro Town Council to move our climate goals forward by reducing emissions, promoting bike and pedestrian travel. We asked Carrboro Town Council to improve access for all residents to natural spaces on public land. We asked Carrboro Town Council to support the design and construction of a completed Bowling Creek Greenway. This petition was signed by over 1,000 local residents. We removed duplicates, anonymous and out-of-town signatures. We implore any other petitions presented to do the same. A more detailed overview was sent to you over email with zip codes for your perusing. In addition to our petition, we've gathered speakers here, and the ones that are in support with us, we have shared some of the comments left on our petition, and we hope that some of those comments will be shared with you tonight. We would like to thank the Town Council for creating this public comment period, and for all of the town staff efforts, just the enormous amount of effort in engaging residents in this decision. We hope that your decision is guided by accessibility, connectivity, and climate resiliency, and that it balances the needs and interests of all community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Next is Zoe Little, then Maria Palmer, then Will Jukes. Welcome, Zoe.
Hey, good evening. Thanks so much for taking the time tonight. My name is Zoe Little. I live right across the corner on Fidelity Street, and I'm here representing the Carrboro Chapel Hill branch of the North Carolina Triangle Democratic Socialists of America. I spent a couple of afternoons earlier this year talking to Carrboro neighbors about the Greenway completion project, collecting signatures for the petition that Nick just mentioned. I support expanding the Greenway, creating the connection, and using the Creekside alignment, but I'm going to read some of the comments from the petition. 1, I'm absolutely thrilled about the idea of new Greenway paths in our neighborhood. They would provide a safe and accessible space for outdoor activities, promoting a healthier lifestyle for everyone. Not only would they enhance the beauty of our community, they would also contribute to preserving nature and fostering a more sustainable and vibrant neighborhood. Let's come together and make these greenways a reality. Another comment. We need a paved Bowling Creek Greenway that is accessible to bikes, wheelchairs, strollers, everyone. The opposition's position that it would harm the environment is absurd. We have many paved nature paths in our community that demonstrate how well they work to preserve the natural beauty while providing access to all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zoe. Next speaker is Maria Palmer, Will Jukes, then Mel Kramer. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you. There is chaos and war and famine, and you cannot do anything about it. So isn't it wonderful that you're here and you can do something that will actually make a difference in people's lives in a very real way? I love that about public service, that you can really make a difference. First and foremost, you can make it possible for me to walk in a stroller from my house to my grandkids' house, from Chapel Hill to Carrboro, on a paved greenway when the Bowling Creek is all completed. So for that, I make you a promise that if this passes, and when the alignment is complete, the Creekside alignment is complete, every year I will take my grandkids on a stroll on a beautiful fall day, and I will read the names of the people who voted for this to them and remind them that somebody paid for this and built this for them to enjoy, and that they will have one day the responsibility to continue to improve the town's infrastructure so that other people will enjoy the beautiful trees and the greenways. And that is a promise, because I believe in public service, and I believe that it takes courage and time and energy, and I think you should be honored for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Next speaker is Will Jukes, then Mel Kramer, then Alpha Cravey. Welcome, Will.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Will Jukes. I have been a Carrboro resident since 2016. I intend to continue being so as long as I can afford the rent. I am a member of Democratic Socialists of America, as several speakers are before me. And people who know me know that you will not often catch me at Town Hall, because I do not have a lot of faith in municipal government. Especially in North Carolina, municipal government appears to be, by and large, a welfare program for real estate developers and their rich cousins. And if you had asked me, why do I believe that, I might have pointed to the example of this Greenway project, this minuscule infrastructure project that we have not been able to complete for over a decade because some homeowners didn't like it. Nevertheless, I've been inspired by the efforts of my neighbors and my comrades in DSA who have rallied the community, spoken to them about this alignment, and made it very clear, what the public will on this is. The Creekside alignment makes sense. It is going to critically improve our walking infrastructure in this town. It will preserve the green space there by preventing people from going off the trail and doing more damage, as is currently happening. And it will open up the green space to everyone in the town. So I urge you to vote and accept the Creekside alignment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Will. Next up are Mel Kramer, then Alpha Cravey, then Frith Gowan. Welcome, Mel.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Town Council. My name is Melody Kramer, and I live on Richard Dixon Court in Carrboro. I am speaking here tonight on behalf of my entire family, 2 of whom go to sleep before this meeting even starts. We strongly support the Creekside alignment. I value my time because I do a lot of stuff. I work, I'm a mom, and I help run a small local civics blog called Triangle Blog. I see parents sitting every single day in cars along Sewell School Road. I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit in a long car line idling outside of middle and high school a decade from now. I want my kids to be able to walk and bike to school for their health, for their brains, and for them to be able to experience nature on a daily basis. And I don't just want this for my kids. I want this for kids across Carrboro, kids who live here now, kids who live here in the future. I currently see kids mainly outside of apartment complexes waiting for school buses for a really, really long time in the morning, especially with the school bus shortage. They could almost all be served by this greenway. I want to thank the town staff and council for restarting the public engagement process and for engaging so many people on the survey. And there are so many people here tonight speaking at their first council meeting, which personally makes me very, very happy. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you, Mel. Next is Alta Cravey, then Frith Gowan, then Michael Adamson. Welcome, Alta.
Thank you. I wrote my name down so I remember it. It's Alta Cravey. I live at 101 West Carr Street, and I'm a retired professor of geography at UNC. For decades, I rode my bicycle all seasons from Carrboro to campus, and that's one of the reasons I'm here tonight. I would like to thank the council for the opportunity to express my opinion and my view. I support the Creekside alignment. I support it because connectivity will allow a lot of people in Carrboro to do exactly what I've been doing for years with much less risk to their life and limb if they're traveling on the Bowling Creek Greenway. I'm excited about it. And I want to read, we heard about the collection of survey comments, and I want to read one of the comments that aligns with what I was thinking when I agreed to come here tonight. So this is a quote. "This is another key link in building out the Greenway network that can provide access throughout Carrboro and Chapel Hill to all." Thank you very much for listening, for having us all, and for making these decisions and collecting information. Thanks.
Thank you, Alta. Next up, Frith Gowan, then Michael Adamson, then Tim Turner. Welcome. I hope I'm saying your name right, by the way. I apologize.
My name is Frith Gowan. I live on Lisa Drive, and I'm an 18-year resident of Carrboro. I'm also a mom, a mountain biker, and a dog walker. I want to thank town staff and the council members for your work on this important issue. I'm in support of the Creekside alignment. Years ago, I was skeptical about any paving along Bowling Creek. Now, having spent many, many hours on the Chapel Hill paved Bowling Greenway, I see how well it works, how many people need the accessibility to get out in nature. And I'm excited for residents all over Carrboro to be able to safely travel from Chapel Hill High School, beside Bowling Creek, and ultimately all the way to University Mall, while staying completely separate from cars. Thank you.
Thank you, Frith. Next is Michael Adamson, then Tim Turner, then Bruce Sinclair. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Hello, Council. I'm Michael Adamson. I live at 430 North Greensboro Street. I am in favor of the Creekside alignment. I'm not going to attempt to repeat arguments. So many people here have said it better than I could. I'll just say that I have walked on the Chapel Hill Greenway. I've walked on the Owasso easement in Carrboro. The opportunity that we have comparing those two is just enormous. Not only to connect different communities, give access to a lot of people who otherwise don't have it, and also to, I think, improve the environmental condition of the creek itself, which right now is not very good. So thank you for your efforts tonight, and thanks.
Thanks for coming out, Michael. Next is Tim Turner, then Bruce Sinclair, and then Rob Pinder. Welcome, Tim. Welcome back, Tim.
Thank you. This isn't my first time speaking before the council, but I am in fact shy. I'm Tim Turner. I live on Sudbury Lane, which is in the watershed of the creek, and former chair of the Environmental Advisory Board, and I'm here to speak in favor of the Creekside alignment. I just wanted to address some of the concerns about the impact on the quality of the creek. my first observation is that the quality of the creek is a result of everything that's happening in the watershed and not just down there where the trail and the easement are. And I hope that people who are concerned about the quality of the creek will press the town for outreach to educate neighbors about how to mitigate runoff from their own properties. And secondly, I think the goal of a undisturbed riparian buffer is admirable. However, I don't think it's totally achievable because of the situation on the ground where we have the sewer easement there and lots of traffic on what is now a unmanaged trail. So given the situation as it exists, it seems to me that if done properly, that this trail can actually make things slightly better by stabilizing the bank, which gets eroded now every time it rains, and especially when it floods. And I would like to echo the other speaker that we could do native plantings and things like that, which would really enhance the experience and also bring in native pollinators. So there are opportunities here to make things better rather than worse, and provide access to all the people. I guess I'd like to close by thanking the council and Mr. Mayor for the leadership in addressing this and bringing this forward, the staff for all the work you did, and the people of Carrboro for engaging on this on either side of the issue. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tim. Next is Bruce Sinclair, then Rob Pinder, then, Valerie Calvo. Welcome, Bruce.
Welcome.
Good to see you again.
My name is Bruce Sinclair. I've lived here long enough to say I moved here in the last century. So it's been about 30 years. And I'd like to thank the council and the staff, especially the staff, for all their work in doing this community engagement. And I must say it was very difficult to avoid seeing the mayor's face on videos every time I turned on my computer, but
it was difficult for me too.
It was there. And I don't think there's any way any longer that anybody can say the community input was not sufficient on this topic. I'm here to advocate for the passage of the resolution and support of the Creekside alignment. I live on Pathway Drive, and I'm not an NIMBY, I'm the exact opposite, I'm a YIMBY. Yes, put it in my backyard. Of the many arguments in favor of the Creekside alignment, the major reason why I support the alignment is that the trail, that even by the opponent's own arguments, needs to be 30 feet wide. It would not be sensible to build it from scratch, with the large number of trees needed to be removed using the alternative alignment. I think that would be a whole lot more environmentally destructive than any plan along the creek side. Utilizing the currently cleared Owassa easement would make a lot more sense from environmental cost and ADA considerations, as well as potentially, as Tim said, fixing a lot of the issues along the creek. I look forward to moving forward with the excellent public amenity, and look forward to seeing how much more the plan can be improved as it moves forward through the funding, design, additional community input, and onward to implementation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Next, Rob Pinder, then Valerie Calvo, and then Lily Manning. Welcome, Rob.
Welcome, or thank you. Good evening, Town Council. Really good to see everyone this evening, and really excited that there's so many of our neighbors who have come out tonight. My name is Rob Pinder. I live in Carrboro. I want to first start by saying really appreciated the presentation by town staff. I thought it was incredible what they've accomplished. To get that many people to pause in their life and fill out a survey is not an easy thing to do, and it shows from all of their effort and all of those events. So I really want to applaud them. The second thing I want to say is I support the Creekside alignment, and most importantly, I think this is a really exciting way to get many more people in Carrboro to participate and to be involved and to engage in lots of ways of getting around town. Right now, I bike around town to school with my kids. It's kind of terrifying. They're not the most comfortable people because they're only this tall. So I'm excited about a way to have more people enjoy the forest and get around town in a way that's safe and healthy and more sustainable. Lastly, I recognize this is a very complicated issue, and so really appreciate the town council taking this on, moving this forward, and keeping the conversation and engagement moving on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Good to see you. Next is Valerie Calvo, then Lily Manning, then Nick Resor. I hope I said that right. Welcome, Valerie.
Hello. I'm a bit nervous. This is my first time ever at one of these things.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I live on Cotton Street in Chapel Hill, so I fully admit I live in Chapel Hill, but Cotton Street is right at the end of the current Greenway that exists, and I love living there. I don't want to move away from the Greenway at all. Our street doesn't get a ton of car traffic, but we get dog walkers and bikers and runners and kids going home from school, and it's honestly really lovely. I sit on my porch and I see people all the time and I wave at them. I love how the Greenway connects me to other people and places. It connects me to my friend's home. It's in J Street, multiple parks and other public areas, and even Sunrise Biscuit Kitchen. So I would love to see this kind of interconnectivity extend into Carrboro. I have lots of friends. I would love to be able to walk to their homes. Thank you. And thank you to the council and everyone.
Thanks, Valerie. Appreciate you speaking. Next is Lily Manning, then Nick Resor, then Allison West. Welcome, Lily.
Hello, I'm Lillian. This is also my first time speaking, so
thank
you're
you.
the best. Yeah, similar to what Valerie just said, I live on Hillsborough Street, not a resident of Carrboro, but use like the Bowling Creek trails to like get into Carrboro and to visit friends, go grocery shopping, go to my doctor's office, etc. So like the existing trails have provided the infrastructure for like me and my friends to connect and like to be involved within the community. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the Creekside Trail development, and I believe that that will allow for further connection to be made and more infrastructure for Carrboro and the surrounding area. And then as like within like the polls that they had collected, the group, anyway, I was reading through it, and one of the things that came up was accessibility being a big thing, because like currently, as it sounds, the like Creekside path is like it exists, but it isn't paved exactly, so it is usable by like some residents, but not all residents. So paving that would just allow that to be accessible to more people in the area. Thank you for your time. That's about it.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight. Next is Nick Resor. Hope I pronounced that right. Then Allison West, then Wamik Chaudhry. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Nick Resor. You killed it, did great.
One of my goals in life.
I first want to start by thanking the town council and staff on the great presentation, outreach, and the likes of this process. Some quick backstory is I am a current Masters of City and Regional Planning student at UNC. I live on Davie Street, so literally just a walk away from here. I study land use, environmental planning, and transportation planning, so this is right up my alley. This past summer, I worked in writing, or assisting writing, Town of Cary's pedestrian and bike mobility plan during the year of the trail. So a lot of experience in this, and I wish to lend my support for the Creekside alignment. Not only do I believe that it follows just great basic planning, but the community outreach I've seen is wonderful. The benefits, both environmentally, accessibility-wise, are just truly phenomenal, and I think the town will benefit extremely from this integration and just numerous ways. And I'm not only excited to see it, but excited to walk on it hopefully one day, and excited to see where the community goes from there. So once again, thank everyone here for the great outreach and cooperation. I realize this is a subject that can get contentious at times, so I appreciate everyone's patience and just general wonderfulness.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks for coming out tonight. Next is Allison West, then Wameek Chowdhury, and then Maggie Dixon. Welcome,
Hi,
Allison.
thank you. This is also my first time speaking, and I also wrote my name down. My name is Allison West. I'm a member of the Carrboro Greenways Commission. I also helped start the Carrboro Linear Parks project with friends from Next, and I'm advocating for the Creekside alignment. Thank you to the Town Council for moving this forward after all these years. Thank you to town staff, to Next, and to the DSA for being out in the community, bringing new voices into this conversation. And thank you to the Triangle Blog for sharing so many stories and so much passion and energy about greenways and about this process. Thank you to all the speakers and all the guests we had on our monthly Greenway walks. And thank you to everyone who has spoken up about the need for a connected, accessible Greenway network in Carrboro. This is what it looks like when we work together and when the end goal is progress. The current Owasso easement along the Bowling Creek is a truly special place that should be shared, made accessible, and embraced by the town of Carrboro as one of our finest public spaces. Bowling Creek deserves better, and the people of Carrboro deserve better. We can make space for people and for nature along the creek. Everyone in town should be able to access this space as a place to move a little, a place to move a lot, or just as a place to be. That's what a linear park is. That's what a greenway is. And again, I support a completed Bowling Creek Greenway along the Bowling Creek. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Allison. Next is Wameek Chowdhury, then Maggie Dixon, then Michael Harrison. Welcome, Wameek.
Good evening. Thanks so much. I believe this is actually my first time at the podium as well somehow, which seems a bit strange, but my name is Wameek Chowdhury. I've been a Carrboro resident for the past 5 years. I live down on Jones Ferry Road at the Ashbrook Apartments, although my wife and I are also hoping to stay here forever, so if anybody has a lead on an affordable home in Carrboro, please do let me know. I should also mention I served on the Carrboro Connects Task Force, and I'm a current member of the Carrboro Community Safety Task Force. I'm here to speak in favor of the Creekside alignment as well. For me, it's a bit of a no-brainer being able to take advantage of the Owasso easement, the restorative efforts that that can be taken Creekside if we choose this alignment. For me, make it a pretty obvious choice, as well as the accessibility and the connections that it will provide. One thing that I wanted to mention, I'm a member of the North Carolina Triangle Democratic Socialists of America as well. We've been canvassing in support of the Greenway for several months now. I wanted to share a little bit about what the experience of canvassing for the Greenway has been like. I knock on a lot of doors in Carrboro. I canvassed for a range of campaigns, and I did not know what the response was going to be like at the doors for canvassing for the Greenway. I'm an enthusiastic supporter of it, but I was wondering if maybe the issue would be a bit esoteric, if folks might not totally understand. And I was really blown away by how overwhelmingly positive the reception at the doors was. It actually took very little persuasion. Folks, especially folks who often don't have their doors knocked on in this town, people who don't tend to participate in the political process as much, were overwhelmingly enthusiastic about completing the Greenway. Now, on our petition, we started canvassing months ago, so we didn't have specific options for which alignment folks preferred, but for us, the Creekside alignment has always been the end-all and be-all. So all of that enthusiastic response that we got, it was from people looking at the Creekside alignment saying, yes, that makes sense, that represents the kind of town that I want to live in. And as a member of the Carrboro Connects Task Force, I think it's really vital. I think this will help us start to make some headway towards our goals in the comprehensive plan of reducing car dependence, increasing walkability in town, increasing accessibility. So thank you so much to the council. I know this has been a long process that has been heated at times. I really appreciate all the opportunities for public engagement. Hope that you will take a look at our petition. We did get over 1,000 signatures from local residents who support this Greenway being built. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wameek. Next is Maggie Dixon, then Michael Harrison, then Alex Melnick.
Hi, I'm also a first-time speaker.
Hey, welcome, Maggie.
And I wrote my name down. I live on
theme.
Pathway Drive in Carrboro, and I support the plan to complete the Bowling Forest Greenway using the Creekside plan. This is for myself, for my children who need to be able to safely bike to their schools, and for everyone in my community. Everyone deserves access to this special place. I've lived in the Chapel Hill Carrboro area since 1997, and I've been using the Bowling Forest trails for that entire time, and I love them. When I initially learned about the plan to put a greenway in, I think it was about 2010, I was vehemently opposed. I showed up here in opposition, but I learned more about the plans, and I listened to people that I trust, and I listened to people who are experts, and I changed my mind. And I'm now really excited about the plan and the prospect that we'll actually move forward. And I'm hopeful that we will land in a place that we all feel good about and that other people will be able to change their minds about. And then I wasn't going to say this part because I'm kind of throwing my mom under the bus, but she's not here and hopefully not watching the live stream. But a year ago, I was walking with her, as we very often do in the woods, and she fell and hit her head. She's 70 years old, 71 now, on a rock, passed out, broke the crap out of her finger and actually her arm too. It took a while for the EMTs to find us. It was really scary. And if the Greenway gets built, that won't happen to as many people, right? It'll make it so people who have mobility and accessibility issues can use the space safely. So thank you to the town, thank you to the staff, and everyone else who's worked so hard on all this.
Thanks, Maggie. Thanks for coming back. Next is Michael Harrison, then Alex Melnick, and Patrick Quirk. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, Council, Mayor. I'm here speaking in support of the Creekside alignment as well. First of all, I want to thank everybody, town staff, for just engaging the community in an equitable process to gain insight into what the community wants. I think that's incredibly important. A little bit about me: I live in North Carrboro near the high school, and I have a kid who is in the high school and a kid who is in the middle school. And our family benefits just massively with the earlier phases of the Greenway that were constructed. We can essentially walk from our house to both of those schools without having to cross a street. My daughter this afternoon, her bus was delayed an hour and a half. So if she didn't have the option to walk home, she would have had to sit at school for an hour and a half. That's a lot to ask of an eighth grader. So I think that more people in the community should have access to greenways like this. I think that more families should have the ability to choose to not have to sit in these massive car lines to wait to pick up their kids from school. And I think that supporting this resolution, supporting the Creekside alignment, is a very tangible way to make that happen for people in our town. So I just want to thank you again for kind of helping to make our town more connected and providing alternatives for driving. So, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next is Alex Melnick, then Patrick Quirk, then Heidi Perry. Welcome, Alex.
Yeah. So my name's Alex, and I last lived in Carrboro in the late 2000s, and after about 15 years away, my spouse and I had the opportunity, thanks to remote work, to live anywhere in North America that we wanted. We looked all over and we decided to come back here, so we're really glad to be here. I didn't grow up in Carrboro. I grew up in another town you might have heard of called Charlotte. And Charlotte is distinguished by being significantly less interesting than the Chapel Hill and Carrboro area, especially the neighborhood that I grew up in, which is in North Charlotte. But it had one really great thing going for it, and that was the Mallard Creek / Clarks Creek Greenway. This is a paved path that currently goes 7.8 miles and winds through the greater Mallard Creek area. It connects, I think, like 15 or 16 different neighborhoods, and there's actually a plan to turn it into a 26-mile path that goes all the way down to the South Carolina line. Now, Charlotte is kind of famous for being suburban and sprawly, which means that if you're a kid, you live in a neighborhood, and you're kind of stuck in that neighborhood. You know, you can walk around, you can play in people's yards, but there's busy streets everywhere. It's hard to get out. It's hard to visit your friends in other neighborhoods. But I was extremely fortunate by living on the Greenway. I could go out, I could explore nature, I could bike around, I could run, I could visit friends, I could walk to my elementary school. It was really like the one redeeming thing about growing up in Charlotte was being close to the Greenway. When I moved back, I was really excited to see that the town was moving towards extending the really awesome Bowling Creek Greenway out towards Carrboro. And looking at the different options, it seems like the Creekside alignment is clearly the best choice. Much like the Clarks Creek Mountain Creek Greenway, there's an existing sewer easement there. There's the perfect spot to put it. And that alignment would be awesome for connecting all the different neighborhoods, both for people trying to get onto the Greenway as well as people who live where we do, out on the far side of Hillsborough Street, kind of near the middle school, a way to get downtown and even to get all the way over to Chapel Hill and the library and things like that. So I'm here to say that I definitely support the Creekside alignment. I'm looking forward to seeing it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Next speaker is, who did I say? Heidi Perry, then Angus Ewington. Oh, I'm sorry. Patrick, sorry. That was bound to happen eventually. Okay. Patrick, then Heidi Perry, then Angus Ewington. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Patrick Quirk. I'm a Chapel Hill resident. I live in Ironwoods, and I have 2 children in Carrboro Elementary School. I'm here tonight to thank the Town Council for supporting this Greenway and to show my support for the Creekside alignment. My family and I live just a short walk away from Bowling Creek, where the proposed Greenway will go. We could not be more excited about it. Every school day, we bike down Estes Drive through Wilson Park for school drop-off and pickup. Our friends and neighbors think that we're daring to do this, and frankly, they're right. Estes is a very busy road. We need a safer route for kids to get to school. And the Creekside alignment is a great solution, not only for Carrboro Elementary, but any of the homes and schools near the creek as well. And I realize this is an anecdotal support of, the Creekside alignment, and to an earlier speaker's point. But at some point, when you have enough anecdotes, which you get consensus. And I think that's what we've shown tonight and through the wonderful work that the staff has done. So I'd like to thank you for listening to me, and thank you all for making Carrboro more accessible and more connected for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks for coming all the way over to Carrboro. Next is Heidi Perry, then Angus Ewington, then Shannon Arata. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you.
Not your first time.
It is not my first time. I'm Heidi Perry. I live in Carrboro. I've lived here since 1984. I prefer the Creekside alignment. I'll go ahead and say that for the many reasons that others have mentioned, and I sent you a long letter with a lot of thoughts, but I wanted to highlight just a couple of things. First, the planet is on fire. We know that. Everyone who drove here tonight should know the part that cars play in this. We need safe alternatives to car travel. And then I want to talk a little bit about mental health. Over 50 million adults in our country are suffering through mental illness right now. 1 in 10 youth, 1 in 10, suffer a depression that affects their ability to function at school and at home. Data shows that connecting to nature is associated with lower levels of poor mental health. In particular, it lowers depression and anxiety levels. Providing a safe route to school along a greenway will give children fresh air and exercise as they connect with nature. This is good for them for removing their depression. Studies have also shown that students who bike or walk to school actually do better in class. This greenway was needed a decade ago. I'm so glad to see that it has finally been pulled off the back burner after years of stagnation, and I look forward to seeing it put to a vote. Thank you so very much to the town staff. I know that you are stretched in many ways for getting this done. Thank you to the town council for bringing it forward and for all the work you've done.
Thank you, Heidi. Next is Angus Ewington, then Shannon Arata, then Margaret Wiener. Angus, welcome.
Thanks. This is my first time in Carrboro. I wasn't going to mention it, but Charlotte got mentioned, so I felt I had to. I grew up in Davidson, North Carolina, which is a model of stagnation in many ways. It's in large part a glorified parking lot with 1920s architecture on Main Street. So growing up there, it was sort of a model of what life didn't have to be like when I arrived in Chapel Hill and Carrboro to attend the university. I lived in Carrboro during what could liberally be called a lockdown for COVID. I lived up on BPW Club Boulevard. I made the mistake many times of walking under the 54 overpass all the way to the university. And I then worked at the YMCA, the Chapel Hill Carrboro YMCA, sat in the bus through many of those car lines as a counselor waiting to pick kids up. And I now live on the end of the Greenway along Bowling Creek and Chapel Hill. So I've seen in many ways the sort of downsides, lived the downsides of the lack of a Greenway, lived the benefits of a Greenway, and seen what it can do for people. I'm here to support the Creekside alignment. Living alongside the Creekside alignment in Chapel Hill it's really quite great. Normally now when I want to walk to Carrboro, I drive, or I wind up walking on the railway, which is not so great. So my message to y'all is that I would hope that we'll be able to pass and move quickly on the Creekside alignment. I'd love to spend more of my time walking to Carrboro and being in Carrboro, and I'd love to do that on a Greenway rather than a railway. Thank you.
Thank you, Angus. Thanks for coming over. Coming back over. Next is Shannon Arata, then Margaret Weiner, then Jay Paskins. I hope that's who it is. We'll get there. Shannon, welcome.
Brought my phone for timing purposes only.
Awesome.
I'm Shannon Arata, and I'm attorney for Friends of Bowling Creek. I know you've received comments already, and I want to be clear at the outset. The goal of my comments is not to say, don't build a greenway. Don't do this. We're all in agreement that a well-planned greenway is good for the community and it's good for the environment. The concern has to do with locating it within the riparian buffer area that the Creekside alignment would require. The reason for that, and I should say that the riparian buffer area is defined by state regulation. It's that 50 feet landward of the top of bank. It gets more technical from there, but when you place it there, it's subject to specific state permitting requirements. And the reason being is that riparian buffers do serve critical ecosystem services. They protect water quality from things like nutrient pollution and sedimentation runoff. They assist with stormwater runoff, erosion control, and flood mitigation. My understanding is flooding is a partial concern in this part of the creek, and that Bowling Creek is already on the state's impaired waters list. That's the 303D list. My understanding also is that this decision is largely based on that initial 2009 scoping document, which served its purpose, right? It identified many issues, it made recommendations, but it itself recognized that there is a need for engineering assessments before moving forward with a particular plan. Public commenting also, it's an impressive endeavor that took a lot of time, I imagine, but public comments also cannot serve as a substitution for actual engineering assessment. And the reason to harp on this is that if this pathway is placed within a riparian buffer or any temporary or permanent disturbance, you are required to get a state buffer authorization certificate from the Division of Water Resources. And the town has to make a demonstration that there actually are no other practical alternatives and that the alternative chosen does minimize or avoid environmental impacts to the greatest extent possible. And that's more than a bald-faced statement that, yes, we have looked at this and this is the best way to move forward. You have to provide things like erosion and sedimentation control plans that requires coordination with the Army Corps of Engineers, environmental consultants, professional surveyors, a whole myriad of actual experts who can provide you with that assurance and demonstrate to the state that you are doing the thing that is the most environmentally friendly. Requires site plans, flooding potential assessments, and an assessment of existing infrastructure like the OWASA infrastructure. I'm saying this not as my opinion, but as someone who spent way too much time in a courtroom arguing over this stuff, and as someone who served on the state commission that adopted the Jordan Lake rules to protect these particular areas. So what my client would like to ask is that, not that you don't vote on this, but that you get that assessment up front because you're going to have to get it anyway before actually seeing this process forward and not running into a roadblock down the road. To put off the vote and to get that information and get it to the public before moving forward. Thank you for your time and consideration of bedtime.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Shannon. Appreciate it. Next is Margaret Weiner, then Jay Paskins, I think that's what I'm reading here, and then Olivia Hodgson, sorry. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you. This is my second time speaking to the Town Council. The last time I spoke here, I asked about public engagement. Imagine my dismay to discover it was a survey. As an anthropologist aiming to discover what matters to people and why, I find even good surveys useless. We all know the frustration of having to select an answer that doesn't capture what we think or feel. This one was biased and incomplete, and frankly, many people I know didn't even know it existed, despite the claims about outreach. I am disheartened. No one is against bicycles or walking to school. But the council, supported or pushed by NEXT, Linear Parks Project, Triangle Blog, rejects all ways of achieving such goals, but paving beside the creek. In the 25 years I've lived here, I have never seen such divisiveness, such disinformation, such denial of science. While such plagues have become all too familiar nationally and internationally, they're unprecedented in a town where people mostly share the same values. Why not seek to bring people together to find a solution that could satisfy all? And why push a plan devised nearly 15 years ago? The world has changed dramatically in that time, and perhaps it would be wise to revisit old plans in light of this. It is not just climate change we face, but a crisis to the planetary web of life, a crisis fueled by development, which is associated with a particular mode of life. New forms of energy and transportation sound great, but they're ways of continuing that mode of life. From the start of the environmental movement, protecting nature has been pitted against human interests. But we are part of nature, not separate from it. Who benefits from destroying habitat to provide human convenience and comfort? Treating land as property to be used as humans please has been, alas, part of this country's DNA since the arrival of European settlers, whose values continue, it seems, to prevail. Other species don't vote. This makes it easy for politicians and other people to ignore them. So let me very briefly speak on their behalf. Forests are not just a gaggle of individual trees. They are interconnected communities whose members communicate. Forests also do far more than sequester carbon. They absorb excess stormwater, keep down temperatures, improve soils, and provide habitats for countless other beings. Consider that this part of Bowling Creek is also currently the only portion where aquatic insects, the basis of the entire ecosystem, survive at all along the creek. For those who only care for humans, remember, water always wins. Creeks need to meander. Banks are floodplains. As storms increase in intensity, a concrete road will only lead to more flooding downstream in Camelot Village, whose marginalized residents already are subject to disastrous floods. I urge the council to choose a legacy beyond marking the territory with planet-unfriendly structures. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Margaret. Thanks for coming out tonight. Next is Jay Paskins. And then will be Olivia Hodgson, and then Nick Econopoli.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'm Jay Paskins. I'm a resident of Carrboro, and I support the Creekside alignment. Like a lot of residents I've had the opportunity to meet here, driving is not a practical means of transportation for me. For that reason, the existing Bowling Creek Greenway represents the spine of what I'm able to safely and regularly access in the Carrboro Chapel Hill area. The existing Greenway is wonderful, and expanding it along the Creekside alignment will open up whole new stretches of the community to me and others like me, while also providing the same access to many others. In particular, continuing the Greenway along the Creekside alignment will provide far greater access to excuse me to natural and open spaces for community members, and provide an opportunity to repair some of the damage done to the Bowling Creek ecosystem and watershed by the existing Owasso corridor. I hope the council will move forward with expanding the Bowling Creek Greenway along the Creekside alignment, and I thank you for your time and consideration and all the effort that y'all have made.
Thank you very much, Jay. Thanks for coming out. Next is Olivia Hodgson, then Nick Econopoli, and then Brian Moynihan. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you. So I'm Olivia Hodgson. I'm a Master's of Public Health student at UNC, and I am also a Carrboro resident. I'm a trained statistician, and I'm really, really impressed by the work that the town was able to do in their survey. We all aspire to have a perfect survey, but it's really, really hard, and I think that the town did as good of a job as can be expected of just about anybody with the resources that they had available. I would like to request that the town move forward with a Creekside alignment plan. This would provide great value to my life and the lives of others, and I believe it would contribute to the overall improved health of Carrboro residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia. Thanks for coming out. Next is Nick Econopoli, then Brian Moynihan, then Cecilia Carter. I think I read that right. Welcome, Nick.
Hi. I'm just a guy, and I'm not here with any group, and it is past my bedtime. I'm here to share my support for the Creekside alignment proposal for the Bowling Creek Greenway. I've lived in Carrboro for 17 years. I love Carrboro, and I love Carolina North Forest. I grew up playing in the forest with my friends, mountain biking with my dad, and running with our black lab Pepper. I also grew up walking to McDougal Elementary and Middle School and biking to Chapel Hill High School. To get to the high school, I had to snake my way in a long route through 3 different neighborhoods. Kid me would have loved to bike alongside Bowling Creek, avoiding all car traffic and intersections. Paving a greenway is good for our town, it's good for our climate, and it's good for our kids. I think we should do it.
Thanks for coming, Nick. Next is Brian Moynihan, and then Cecilia Carter and Elise Keefe. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks. This is my first time speaking.
Welcome.
So my name is Brian Moynihan, and I speak for the trees. I'm just kidding. But I do speak on behalf of my family, my wife and my son. My wife and I have lived in town for 18 years, and my son is at Carrboro Elementary School. And I'm here to speak against the Creekside alignment. So overwhelmingly, the arguments we heard tonight are those in favor of the Creekside alignment. For people who were saying that, they were saying they were speaking in favor of the Greenway. But the Creekside alignment is not only the least ecologically friendly of the options, it's also the most expensive and the longest, actually, for people who want to get to school in an efficient manner. So the expense begins with millions of dollars that we talked about tonight, where we start building a pathway in a flood zone, but it doesn't end there. So I'm concerned with the cost and the interventions in wild spaces will continue indefinitely into the future. So that includes repairs, that includes painting, lighting, trash cans, security, and parking lots. So if this is going to be accessible to people, then we're going to have parking lots as well, which we also don't have accessible to this spot. So we heard about giving this greenway to our children and our grandchildren, and that is unfortunately correct. Not only will the current generation pay for paving the woods, but our kids and their kids would pay financially and ecologically as well. So I don't believe this is the best use of town resources in alignment with our values, and including things like affordability. I don't think that makes sense for our values, nor I think, from an ecological perspective. So the town did an amazing job of outreach. I was so impressed to hear all the things that the town did. But unfortunately, it was all focused around this survey that was incredibly biased. I appreciate the previous person who talked about that. Because I think that some of the public support is misleading, partially because of the way the options were framed. So for instance, if you ask, would you like a greenway to make Carrboro greener? People will say yes. But if you gave the question, do you think that the best use of town funds is spending millions of dollars to pave the woods? That same person might say no. So we haven't heard a question of trade-offs in this discussion, and in fact, including how much this money is being spent and how we might spend it in a better way. So the Greenway service was incredibly biased. It's a fact that's frankly embarrassing for a town so full of UNC graduates. And so if you look at it, the phrasing of this was as follows. Option 1, the Creekside alignment was described as, and I quote, the preferred alignment, the most successful, giving the most options. Option 2, steep topography, increased engineering costs, potential ADA accessibility constraints. Option 3, concerns from many parents, many engineering constraints to be cost effective. So obviously this was an incredibly biased survey. And this came out, the first time I saw this was from the town itself. My son goes to Carrboro Elementary, it came to me, and these were the options that were given. So people were choosing from these options, weren't given reasonable options. They weren't given trade-offs of how the money could otherwise be spent and more in line with our values. They were given frankly, very biased perspectives that have been around since 2009 and not corrected, which is like, I'm a little embarrassed to say that as a citizen of Carrboro and a proud citizen. If you look at my Gmail, it actually says I'm a Carrboro partisan. Like I'm the person who fights on behalf of Carrboro, but I'm a longtime believer. So my time's up, but I did want to say that the continued undervaluing of our wild species is concerning, and I don't think this is a very good use of funds, and I hope we can keep Bowling Creek as wild as possible. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for being here. Next is, and I apologize if I misread this, Cecilia Carter, and then Elise Keefe, and then Mary Sanas. Welcome, Cecilia.
Thank you. And this is also my first time speaking here.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
So yeah, I wasn't very prepared. I'm not here with any affiliations or groups or Next or DSA either. Somebody sent me the survey a couple months ago, and that's how I found out about it. I've lived in Carrboro in downtown Chapel Hill for maybe 7 years, and I currently live near the opening to Bowling Creek near Flyleaf Books, and I biked here on the Greenway today, and I use this Greenway a couple times a week just to run errands, get groceries, go to the movies. I moved to that location this year, and it's been so wonderful being able to bike on the actual Greenway and not being honked at by cars if I'm going down Estes, or I did actually have to come down Estes today because it's not connected. But and when I lived in Carrboro, I took the Libby-Cotton Bikeway Trail every day to UNC, and it's just such a joy to be able to ride on the trail to school. Not be on the road. And so I think if that were extended to all of the residents here, when you're a kid and you can bike to school, it's also empowering. It's empowering to not have to wait for a bus or to have to depend on your parents to bike to your friends. When I went to school, I did live in a place where we didn't have school buses and we were able to bike to school. And it is just really empowering, I think, for kids to be able to do that. And so I don't have any kids yet, but I hope for the people who live here. I think it would be a great addition to this community.
Thanks, Cecilia. Appreciate it. Next is Elise Keefe, then Mary Sanas, then Martha Holzer. Welcome, Elise.
Good evening to the council, and thank you all so much for moving this issue forward. My name is Elise Keefe. I've been a Carrboro resident for 16 years now, member of the Transportation Advisory Board for, I think, 4 years now. And I'm here tonight as a member of this community, as a mom, as an environmentalist, as a transportation safety researcher, and a frequent user of the trails. So often that WRAL actually caught me doing a story on this very issue recently. So I'm here today to say the same thing that I said to the reporter that day, which is that I am strongly in support of building this Greenway and using the Creekside alignment. I think that's going to serve the best benefit to the entire community. So I've enjoyed these trails for years, but they are definitely not accessible to all, including members of my own family. So my daughter's still learning how to ride a bike, and she cannot navigate those routes and rocks and things like that. So we find ourselves, instead driving to Chapel Hill sometimes to try to enjoy the Greenway there. We are very committed to owning only one car, maybe one day no cars if they build some trains or something. So we commute almost everywhere by bike or by walking, and so this Greenway would really offer that opportunity to so many more families in Carrboro. So I'm really proud of this community and Carrboro's commitment to building a better, more sustainable corner of this world. And the Bowling Creek Greenway aligns with those goals. Thanks.
Thanks, Elise. Next is Mary Sanas, then Martha Holzer. Welcome, Mary.
Tonight, I'm talking to you for someone else. Casey Kinsella was going to address you tonight, and she had an accident, and so I was passed along her presentation.
Thank you for doing that, Mary.
This is a letter that was written. Dear Carrboro Town Council members, I've attached for your consideration a public statement on the imperative to preserve Bowling Creek and stop the attempted paving in the creek's riparian buffer zone from 7 Directions of Service co-founder and director, Dr. Crystal Cavalier-Keck. Dr. Cavalier-Keck is a citizen of the Occaneechi Band of the Saponi Nation, and she's dedicated the past 5 years to defending her homelands against the Mountain Valley Pipeline Southgate extension. She is leading a campaign to bring rights of nature laws to an NC to protect the waterways and communities of the pipeline paths. Crystal co-authored NC House Bill 795, The Rights of Nature, Rights of Haw River, prioritizing environmentally impacted communities around the watershed. So, the letter is as follows. As a water protector and rights of nature advocate, I wholeheartedly support all efforts to preserve Bowling Creek and Bowling Forest and prevent the unnecessary, irreversible harms that will result from paving a concrete path alongside the sensitive riparian zone of Bowling Creek. Since time immemorial, indigenous peoples have been taught to treat the environment and other species as we would our human kin. Today, the indigenous-led Rights of Nature movement aims to avoid the worst of the climate catastrophe by shifting the status of nature in our Western legal system from property or commodity to a rights-bearing entity. It challenges all of us to examine proposals for development through the eyes of our ecosystems, the more than human beings that inhabit them, and our future generations. It is from these vantage points that I voice opposition to the proposed concrete trail along Bowling Creek. Paving in the riparian zone of Bowling Creek would sacrifice the long-term vitality of its water quality and aquatic life by removing crucial riparian trees, destabilizing stream banks, and creating ripe conditions for erosion. Manufacturing such frailty will have rippling consequences. Bowling Creek and Bowling Creek Forest deserve health and resilience, and it's our job as stewards to make choices that ensure it. I thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
You want to do that?
Great, thanks. Mary, will you make sure to hand one to the town clerk as well? Will you hand one to the town clerk as well? Thank you. Right, and next speaker is Martha Holzer, and then I'll ask if there were others who didn't make it onto the list.
Thank you.
Welcome, Martha.
I'm Martha Holzer. Thanks for taking time to review this tonight. I will say that I'm in favor of a greenway. I'm not in favor of a creekside alignment, and I've lived in the area for over 20 years. And part of the reason that I've stayed in this area is because of access to the trails. So for those people that have indicated there are no access points, I would like to mention that there's access points at Wilson Park, Sewell School, and I've been going to those places for years. There's other access points from different neighborhoods, locations, and so saying that it's not accessible is not true. I also want all of you to think about how often do you drive to a national park or a state park? We have a resource here in our backyard that's precious, and we want to sit there and put pavement along the side of it? That makes no sense to me. The parts I have challenges with are the fact that I saw that the town of Carrboro filled out a request to have the Sewell School side path funded, and I voted for this recently on the recent MOP survey. Why has the town done nothing to advocate for the fact that it could have pushed for getting funding from the DOT to have the side path done to connect to Estes Road? This is separate than like the greenways we're discussing, but why hasn't that been included? Because the Upward Creek alignment would double close to that location. And if Estes is already going to have a bike path funded along the side of it on Estes Extension, none of that's being referenced as a point where it could connect to the Sewell School path. Why are you also not mentioning that you haven't hired an engineering firm to give any indication about how much that's going to cost for any of the 3 alignments? So you give a very biased survey out to the community There's no reference points for financial information of how much this is going to cost people, where exactly the funding is going to be coming. And there's a whole missing conversation that's not even occurring that I think is really unfair for you all as a council to put a vote forward tonight to discuss which alignment should happen when you're not even giving the town an opportunity to understand how much is this going to cost. And I brought this point up in June. So there's been adequate time to be able to hire somebody to go in and begin that process. I encourage you all to think about delaying a vote about which alignment should be until we have more information. I also don't understand why it's never been referenced in any of the materials that this violates the Jordan Lake drinking rules. Like the Jordan Lake rules simply state, and I sent this in an email documenting all the different parts earlier today to you all, that a greenway along a riparian zone can't be put into place unless there's no other alternatives. You gave a survey out that shows 2 other viable alternatives. So if that's the case, why are those alternatives not being the things pushed? Or do you all have more power as a local government than the state government? Like, I don't know how that process works, but to me it would seem as though you all have to obey by those rules. So why are we not, as a community, talking about how to make a greenway happen in a place that's environmentally friendly, that's not going to have constant flooding, and we're going to have to be doing constant repair work? I just think you need to look at it from a financial standpoint and provide the community with more details.
Thanks so much, Martha. Thanks for coming out tonight. Okay, are there other folks here who came to speak on this matter but did not get a chance to get on the list? Yes, come on up. Will you tell me your name on the way up, please?
Yes, sorry, I didn't get myself together to sign up. Lori Kamala. I live on Morningside Drive in Carrboro.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Welcome.
and I am here to speak in favor of the Creekside alignment. I live with my family on Morningside Drive. I've got a student currently at Chapel Hill High, 2 who have already gone through the system. And I'm really excited about the possibility of her being able to walk or bike to school. Last year, my daughter missed the bus from Chapel Hill High, and I was at an event in Durham and could not get there. And so, no problem, she can try to walk. Unfortunately, her phone battery was dying, so there she is wandering across Bolin Forest, getting lost in the woods, and I'm over in Durham. She did make it home eventually after like an hour and a half navigating those woods, but I will be very relieved and excited once we have a reliable walking path. And even more of a reason for me to be excited about a path that really aligns the creek is thinking about accessibility issues for people with mobility concerns. My dad loved the woods, but at the end of his life, he couldn't walk easily, and so a paved path would have enabled him to walk in the woods. And I think about the many people who struggle with mobility issues, whether it's for wheelchairs, whether it's for needing a stroller. I hope that we will move forward with this plan. It's been in the works for many, many years, it sounds like, and we'll be excited to enjoy this with my family and the rest of the community. I thank you all, council members, for your very thoughtful consideration and the thoughtful process that you have gone forward with this, and look forward to the next steps. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks for being here. Any other speakers who didn't make it onto the list? Come on up. What's your name? What's your last name?
No.
Thanks.
Hi, does the mic work from here?
Yep, you're good. Go for it.
I'm Daniel Nuttall. I'm a member of the Chapel Hill Carrboro Democratic Socialists of America. I'm here to voice my support for the alignment and the Greenway Trail. I'm a big believer that the best governments, societies, all that are the ones that invest in themselves, that invest in their people. And this is exactly that, a true, like, pure investment to make the community better, to make the people better, to make helping people do what they do from going to work and going to school more easier. So I fully support this being passed and moving forward expeditiously.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for coming out. Okay. Any more who came to speak tonight but didn't get onto the list? I'm not seeing any heads poking in from the overflow room. Jerry, you want to talk?
Yes.
Come on up, Jerry. Welcome.
Well, as a resident of Carrboro for the last almost 20 some odd years or more, those woods have been something special to me and my family. My son, who went to the high school, had no problems with going through those woods, getting to school. That was his best way of going to school, and he loved it. He both walked it and he biked it. And I'm in there just about every day, and I see people on bicycles all the time. And I just don't see the need for it to be put in concrete next to a stream such as this, for all the environmental reasons that have been brought up. And I just want to make sure that that the voices of the people that have lived here for a long time and have used those woods on a regular basis, and I just don't see the need for to be paving something next to a stream like that, knowing what's going to happen down the road, and knowing that even after you put the pavement in, it's not going to stay. It's been proven around the state, it's been proven around the country. It's not going to stay. It's going to have to be repaired. Where's the cost of that repair is going to come from? Now, someone mentioned to me that it's going to come from the homeowners association that are in the proximity to it. You shake your head no, but you haven't told us where it would come from either. You may say that it's not going to come from there, but you haven't told us where it's coming from. After, let's say, it lasts 10 years, if you're lucky, who's going to pay for the repairs? That should be spelled out so that everyone can make their own judgment on what that's all about and where the money comes from. That's something that's critical to the people that live there now. And I guarantee you 80% of the people in the communities immediately around that area that's going to be paved, or that you guys want to be paved, don't know about the fact that they will have extra money on top of the taxes that we already pay. So that's my 2 cents.
Jerry, thanks for being here. Okay, I think we've made it there. Now I see one more. Okay, one more. Will you tell me your name? What's your last name? Thank you. Welcome.
Is it this?
Either one is fine. Yep.
I grew up in Carrboro. I lived in Carrboro for 20 years. I live in Chapel Hill now. You can't make nature accessible by destroying it. And most arguments made in favor of the creek alignment or creekside alignment have mainly just advocated for a greenway and talked about the benefits of having a greenway, but have not engaged with or even acknowledged the existence of the alternatives that we were supposed to be here today to be discussing, which are much more direct than the creekside alignment, much less harmful to the environment, and which in my entire life, I've heard people asking for it, because students like today walk, students who could walk on the trail, like people who are able to walk, not people confined to a wheelchair. Students, if you go to Chapel Hill High School or you go to Smith in the morning, you'll see students crossing from the railroad, crossing busy traffic, not because they didn't have the option of walking in the woods, but because that's the fastest route. And a paved trail there, which I've heard people asking for my entire life and wishing existed, would get those students who are going to continue taking that route because it's going to be quicker than the Greenway if it's the Creekside alignment. The Sewell alignment would be just much better. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for being here. Okay. Madam Manager, are Trish and Kat still around? Do we have, or have we, hopefully we haven't lost them.
They should be.
We need a break?
Yeah.
We're going to take a 5-minute recess for bio breaks. So be back here at 9:30.
I'm ready.
See if he heard it. He did. All right. We're going to come back to order, please, and continue with our meeting here. And I see that our staff is back with us, having listened to everything we heard today. So we have time for questions from council members, and I see Danny and then Susan. So go ahead, Danny.
Thank you, Damon. I have some questions and some comments, but first, I have a lot of thanks for Kat and her staff and Trish and her staff. This was just a remarkable undertaking and remarkably well undertaken. I think, one of the things, if you've been following our meetings over the past several weeks and months, has been the resource challenges that our staff often face. We have a number of vacancies in different departments. The past several years have been hard on organizations like ours all over the country. Carrboro being an ambitious town, we ask an awful lot of our staff. And so I think it was quite a task to give them 6 months to respond to this when we did. And I knew that they would do a good job like they always do, but I could not have foreseen the breadth of engagement, the clarity with which it's been presented. Just really wonderful work. And I think really lays a groundwork for future endeavors like this. The outreach, the diversity of outreach is remarkable. And I think, bus shelters, social media, festivals, town events, door knocking, just, can't say enough about it. So thank you. And same for your staff, Trish. I know that y'all were instrumental, and the collaboration in the departmental outreach was just phenomenal.
Thank you so much. I just want to remind everyone that it was a town-wide effort. The Communication and Engagement Department did lead the effort. But having said that, I really do want to recognize Eve Green, who is the Communication and Engagement Specialist. And, we are a team, but we're a 2-member team. And we really motored through the summer and couldn't have done it without Eve. So I just want to mention that as well.
Thank you, Eve. Thank you to everybody who helped with this. My questions will largely be for Trish at this stage. And I want to take really seriously some of the concerns that we've heard around the regulatory environment, and just sort of how we have come to close the loop here from 2009, how this was identified as the preferred alignment, the way that the town staff is relating to the regulatory environment, the next steps, and so forth. So I wanted in particular to talk about the Jordan Lake watershed rules. I would assume that these rules are sort of a hefty part of your awareness and analysis of the regulatory environment. And I also would assume that the Jones Creek Greenway and that Phase 1B, 1A and 1B essentially, would apply within the same Jordan Lake watershed rules. Is that not correct?
Definitely Jones Creek and Phase 1B. The timing, and Morgan Creek Greenway will also be subject to the Jordan Lake rules. So the two projects we have currently under design are subject to the rules, and they're being designed accordingly.
Which include roughly analogous proximities to riparian buffers to what we're discussing here, correct?
Yes.
And so I guess in particular, some of the alphabet soup was a little bit technical for me, but what I understood the attorney who spoke to be saying was really just enumerating the next steps that your department would take, do take, and know to take. Is that about right?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, the design process includes collection of lots of data. It will include environmental studies. It will include, in the case of Bowling Creek, it'll include, we'll want to do a flood analysis so we can identify where crossings are okay, where they can't be located because we have a requirement in our ordinance that doesn't allow increasing the flood upstream when you make crossings. So there's a number of things that will need to be done, collecting information about species, of course, aligning or working on a design so that it complies with the Jordan Lake rules in relation to the whole avoidance and minimization requirements. So yes.
And your understanding is, I mean, presumably this was the preferred alignment because of our faith and our ability to comply with those rules.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, in 2009, the framing of the preferred alignment did result from, and to some of the comments we heard, I would commend everyone to make sure they do read the plan. The reason there's a little bit of a difference in the descriptions of the 3 alignments is because of the timing at which, in the process of developing that plan, they were more clearly defined, essentially. So there's more information about the preferred alignment because in the engagement that occurred in 2009, it yielded benefits that were related to things that were identified as objectives in the planning process. So related to environmental restoration opportunities and other interests of what the function of the trail could do and so forth. So the 2 others were removed from the kind of running, so they weren't defined as clearly. But they were alternatives in the engagement process, and we used the same exact questions that were used in 2009 to allow everyone to have that opportunity to consider them. Does that make sense?
Very much so to me. And so, I mean, even within what we're calling the creekside alignment, I think there's, the possibility, if not the likelihood, of staying outside of 50 feet buffers, crossing into it only when necessary. And the Jordan Lake watershed rules are sort of the framework by which we understand that the restoration potential of the creekside alignment is part of what makes it so appealing. Is that right?
That is an interest that came out during the process of engaging with environmental professionals during that process, and I think still remains today.
Well, I just really appreciate that. It helps to orient and to keep some consistency with some things that I had thought I understood. So I appreciate those answers. To me, this is just an incredibly valuable piece of infrastructure for a number of reasons that we've heard. For the climate resilience piece, for the civic connection opportunity that it offers between the north part of town and the southern parts of town, for students to their schools, for people going on dates to University Place or getting to jobs. It's just incredibly important. And no other project that we've considered does those things while also expanding access to nature for people of all ages and abilities, and combines this level of safety for pedestrians. And so, I appreciate the technical understanding of why there is not, in your consideration, a practical alternative. But to me, the practical alternative doesn't exist because there's simply not another project that meets our transit goals, our climate goals, our safety goals, our social goals, our accessibility goals. I do want to make a quick point. I think, insofar as the goal of our time here is to close the loop a little bit on a conversation that has been going on for quite a long time, I think the 2009 resolution, I believe, had some next steps attached. And what I would be interested, I'm going to move the resolution in our packet here shortly, but I would love support. Well, so first I'll move the resolution in our packet with great excitement and tremendous gratitude to our staff, and really looking forward to this really important and impressive project. So I would like to move the resolution in our packet as a first order of business.
Second.
We're going to have additional discussion, but there is a motion that's been offered, and it's been seconded by Eleazar to approve the resolution in the packet. But yes, we will continue questions and comments.
So then I would also like to add to that resolution a report back from staff in the spring on the next steps and timeline associated with pursuing the creekside alignment, which I believe would include, amongst other things, an RFP for design and engineering. And so I would like to move that, if I could find a second friendly addition to the resolution. And then, I'll close here just by saying that this is, in addition to being really exciting, this is not a tremendously unusual process. I think we often have to design a project before we can quote a project. We often have to pursue a project before we can identify funding sources for a project. And so I think it is not at all a reflection on our staff or on the long discussion here that we don't have that information. This is the step that we're taking to give town the clarity that town deserves on this important project. So I'm really eager to move forward with this, in part because it will help us get clear understanding of the financials. It will help us get clear understanding of the engineering concerns that will keep us in compliance with the important environmental regulations. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful for all of the people who spoke and for our staff.
May I just add one clarification for clarification? The town seeks permission and approval of a finding of no practical alternative. We don't make that. That is made by.
Apply for.
That's right.
And that's through the DEQ essentially, or Division of Water Resources.
Well, yeah, the Division of Water Resources makes that determination. So I just want to make that clear that it's not our call.
I appreciate that. So yeah, so we couldn't be making this mistake in the eyes of this policy as far as practical alternative. It will be found through the ordinary channels.
Yes, that's right.
Wonderful.
It is. There's a process for doing it.
Great.
And pursuing it and it occurring. So.
Thank you, Trish.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trish, for that. Thank you, Danny. Next, I have Susan.
Yeah, thank you, Damon. And Trish, I have no questions. I was just going to be sharing a statement. So if you're more comfortable sitting, I just wanted to give you the opportunity. So first of all, I too want to join this chorus of people so thankful for staff for all the work on this engagement process over the last 3 months. And I know lots of staff have contributed, but especially you, Kat, and also Eve. I want to especially lift you up for all of your work. It's been very broad. It's also, I really appreciate how targeted it has been to some of our underserved communities and the partnerships you use to do that outreach. I appreciate that it went to where people are. Whether it's BIPOC neighborhoods or festivals or pop-up events. I think it's been just a really educational experience for the entire community. Some really important lessons will have been learned through this process by staff, and also some lessons for council that maybe will help inform our future engagements. And also by doing this engagement in-house rather than retaining a consultant, we've saved I don't know how many tens of thousands of dollars. So it's been a great gift to the community, and just know it's very, very, very appreciated. Over the past 4 years, my position on the best alignment for the Bowling Creek Greenway has slowly evolved. And my education has really been through many of you in this room, as well as many other community members, through emails, through phone calls, through blogs, through reports, through conversations at coffee shops, through walks along Bowling Creek. I've learned that the creekside alignment does have very serious environmental risks. I've learned that it can be hugely expensive, even with matching governmental funds and private grants. I've learned that the benefits may not be equitably distributed. But after weighing all the pros and cons of the different alignments, I also now believe that the creekside has the potential to deliver the most powerful benefits to the community. It can offer community members of every age and physical ability and socioeconomic background safe and affordable spaces to commute, to recreate, to reflect, socialize, and to really enjoy just the awesome beauty of Bowling Forest. This view, I think, is very consistent with the findings from the community survey that were shared earlier this evening. So I want to just share the 5 drivers in my decision to support the creekside alignment. The first is that it really, in my opinion, would not really add any new impervious surface along Bowling Creek because it's already fundamentally an impervious surface. The Greenway would be retrofitted into an OWASA sewer easement that is already beaten down, already hard packed over many decades with hikers, with mountain bikers, and with OWASA trucks. Town staff and North Carolina water quality officials considered the trail to be impervious in 2009, and it's only worsened over the last 14 years. Second, compared to the upland forest, the creekside alignment would require very few trees to be cut down. Trees were already removed when building the sewer easement decades ago, and the easement must stay cleared of trees to allow for the OWASA utility trucks easy access to the sewage pipes for routine maintenance. So on the Chapel Hill side of things, only 15 trees were cut down, all less than a foot in diameter, to build its greenway in the nearly identical sewer easement some 25 years ago. Third, as the local chapter of Sierra Club mentioned in a memo a few days ago, the creekside alignment could actually improve environmental conditions along the creek, in the creek and along the creek. That's because those using the trail would no longer need to be dodging puddles, rocks, and roots and braiding the 25 to 50 foot wide easement. Their feet and their tires would be confined to a narrower 10 to 15 foot greenway. So in other words, it would be possible to shrink the impervious surface and reclaim space for a buffer that could be filled with native plants, hardwoods, rocks, and ground cover, slowing runoff, reducing erosion and sedimentation, and stabilizing the stream. There is a large body of research that says riparian zones can actually be improved by just these kinds of narrow paved paths along a creek, so long as they are combined with seeded shoulders with vegetation. That would be key. Fourth, the creekside alignment is flat and it's off-road, making it accessible for community members from ages 8 to 80 who are walking or rolling using bicycles, wheelchairs, walkers, strollers, skateboards, and scooters. For those at the younger end of the scale, this opens up all kinds of opportunities for safe routes to schools. The long lines of parents that we've heard about this earlier this evening, the long lines of parents idling their cars during school pickup and drop-off hours could easily be replaced by more rows of racks brimming with bicycles at Chapel Hill High, Smith Middle, and Sewell Elementary schools, especially among the 229 students living in the no transportation zone at these 3 schools. For some of these students, daily commutes using active transportation will turn into lifetime routines, and it's hard to think of a better investment in climate mitigation as well as the physical and mental health of our young people. And 5, finally, the creekside alignment most aligns with the very core of our Carrboro Connects comprehensive plan. It connects us. It connects the largest number of Carrboro neighborhoods, including those near Greensboro Street and Hillsborough Road. It connects them to each other. It connects to schools and parks and jobs and civic and social engagements and to our downtown. These endless possibilities of these new connections from Estes Park Apartments to Lake Hogan Farms were mentioned over and over again in the community survey. So was the exciting possibility of one day leveraging Carrboro's Bowling Creek Greenway by connecting it to Chapel Hills Greenway at Estes Drive. So for all of these reasons, I think it's time to move forward with the engineering and the design for the creekside alignment, a design that should stay outside of the buffer whenever possible while respecting the water quality rules that protect our creeks and our streams. I hope staff can identify funding and design for this project at the timeliest way possible. And thank you, Danny, for suggesting that that be as early as spring.
Thanks, Susan. Any other council members have questions or comments? Randy? Go ahead, Randy.
I will not support the resolution because of sections 3 and 4. I think the question of the preferred alignment is still subject to be reviewed. I think it's incumbent upon us 14 years later to carefully have the review done before we go headlong into approval. I also think that it has not been demonstrated that other routes are not practicable alternatives, that we, in the last 14 years, the 1B has come in, 1A, 1B, a bikeway, a neighborhood bikeway, a neighborway has been established from Hillsborough Road all the way through Cobblestone to Homestead Road to the high school. And Sewell School Road Side Path also is a project that is on a priority list to be available. Additionally, a lot of folks have lost sight of the possibility, the great possibility of rails to trails with the decommissioning of the UNC coal power plant and the railroad. Were we to do due diligence, we would contact Norfolk Southern and investigate the potential of a right of first refusal. That line, that rail line, would be a tremendous difference in commuting ability for Greenway. The town of Carrboro's comprehensive plan is built on twin pillars: equity and climate action. They are our moral touchstones. Unfortunately, we have not told ourselves or those we serve the truth about the challenge of authentically informing and engaging our entire community on these twin pillars. We haven't told ourselves and the community the discomforting truth about the reality of climate change and what it requires to address effectively. Our interest in paving a greenway network through the forest rather than a natural trail demonstrates a misunderstanding of how we, as human beings, found ourselves in a climate crisis. At the February 14th Town Council work session, Council discarded the opportunity to advance the understanding of the interdependence of climate and environmental sustainability embodied in the Bowling Forest and Bowling Creek. The Council chose to diminish the importance of providing the community with the environmental information necessary to inform their decision-making. The March 28th Town Council's directive to staff and plan for the public engagement process was devoid of climate and environmental facts. Council demanded all information conveyed come from the Greenways, Inc. 2009 Master Plan. This was a 14-year-old report absent the word climate and submitted to the town board long before a Carrboro Community Climate Action Plan, the creation of the Climate Action Pillar, or the comprehensive plan were envisioned. Further, Council stated objections to providing the community with any new climate and environmental science that has informed Carrboro thinking and policy making during these 14 years. The significance of a forest, its surface waters, and ecosystem biodiversity are the heart of the controversy. Their continued preservation, protection, and conservation are a primary responsibility in the midst of climate change and its ecological impact. When we regard a forest and creek habitat as an infrastructure amenity, we disregard the rights of nature, its stability, and its ability to endure. The simple truth is we can establish both greenways and trails as a harmonious endeavor. I urge council and staff to seek common ground and make this moment one that bridges division, fusing sound stewardship of the forest and creek with interest in expanding forest trails. Our path forward can model the way for the community to create confidence in the town of Carrboro governance, the public engagement process, and respect for one another and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Sammy, do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, I firstly, I'm glad to have the opportunity to see the day today. It's been since the moment I came on this board till now, when I'm about to go off, that I've been trying to get us to follow through on our promise to the community. And I feel in large part it's those breaches of trust when we promise to the community that we'll do something that causes heartburn in the community. Irrespective of whichever position we had, my experience was that there was a tactic to achieve the status quo, which is what is currently there, by not moving forward with what we had decided to do. And for example, in our when we were developing the climate action plan, one of the recommendations that was being pushed forward by the group was to follow through with what we had said, figure out which one of these alternative alignments we would do. But it became such a controversial issue that it translated into us gagging all advisory boards thereafter from even discussing this issue. And even having our work session, that motion was done 3 years before, and it took 3 years to have that work session. So it's been very frustrating. Irrespective of what alternative we chose, I really felt fundamentally first we needed to follow through with what we had said we were going to do. I think at the time, Mayor Chilton said, yeah, this is going to take like 15 years. And sure enough, it's like spot on. I do appreciate, though, the opportunity, the power of organizing that has been experienced tonight, the various organizations, the turnout that has happened. And I also want to acknowledge Friends of Bowling Creek and their organizing early on, because they also were very active. I often wonder, where we would be if we'd followed through with our promise to have a broader community input process soon after the 2009 decision, when only Friends of Bowling Creek were around. So it's very interesting the way things work. And yet tonight, just overwhelmingly support, only heard overwhelming support for the Creekside alternative. In regard to all these other alternatives that were not part of the original plan, my understanding and what we decided on that 2009 night was to look at these 3 other alternatives, because that's what the community was requesting of us at that time. And so I find it disingenuous to consider all these other alternatives that are not a part of what we were tasked to do. And so I'm glad that we constrained ourselves in our community input process to exactly what the direction was of the council at that time. I do want to acknowledge and give respects to community members who really recognize the integrity of nature and the importance of other living animals, other living beings, in terms of their consideration of their participation within democracy. And I've been thinking about that, and in large part, Susan, you summarize a lot of the things about this route. Is it's already compromised. It's impervious. It's an OWASA easement. It's eroding. The life that people claim should be there is not there. I mean, you can walk on it. You can see I'm talking about specifically the compacted path. And I do believe that this alignment will actually improve the situation there. So, and the other thing is that we live in an urban setting, and inevitably, like, we need to balance the foundational. There's this concept of donut economics, where you have human needs that are kind of foundation, and then you have environmental constraints, and you have to find that sweet spot in between. And being in an urban environment, we have people who do go to the forest, and it does translate into the erosive and compacted nature of that path. And all these other reasons, access, accessibility, opportunity of people getting to other places through alternative modes of transportation. I won't go through it. Like, you did a really good job, Susan. Thanks for summarizing that. Takes a lot of burden off. Sometimes one feels like, I need to cover these points, but thanks to help, it's covered. So yeah, I'm just glad that we are making a decision one way or another tonight. I feel like it is the indecisive nature of leaving this pending that is toxic to our community. I'm glad we're finally here. I'm grateful for the new members who've come to this council who I think that's part of what we needed. We needed some movement on this, and yeah, that's all I have to say, I guess.
Thank you, Sammy. Next is Barbara and Eleazar.
And so I first want to thank everyone who's been engaged in this process. And I also, I feel some kind of way because I know that, this decision, is going to create angst and more divisiveness, which is something I don't want, right? But it's in front of us tonight. We do have the results of the survey. The community has spoken. In large part for support of the Creekside alignment. And, it doesn't feel good when we're not moving forward together. It just doesn't. And I feel like there is a path forward for us to move forward together. But we just have to be willing to take that seat at the table. I also want to thank our amazing town staff, for inclusive community engagement. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So great job, town staff. Job well done in getting the survey out, literally by any means necessary. So great job. It was all hands on deck. Everybody was participating and working together. And so hats off to Ms. Kat Lazorka and her staff. I thank my colleagues for their comments. I'm not going to repeat a lot of what has already been said, but I am going to say this. Not discussing Bowling Creek for 14 years has not been beneficial to this process. It just hasn't. And we may have found ourselves, I think Councilmember Slay was alluding to that, we may have found ourselves in a different position tonight if we had. We wouldn't be saying, information is 14 years old, because we may have been having some key conversation, within this 14 years. That is what I truly believe. I am asking that communities stay at the table, and be engaged no matter what happens. There's more layers of process to go. Community engagement will be key. And let's try to move forward together. We're better together. We really are, moving forward together. And I think that's all I wanted to say. But it just hurts my heart to have heard some of the things I've heard over the last few months, seen some of the things I've seen. And, it doesn't feel good. And I just really feel like, as Councilmember Haven O'Donnell said, she talked about being harmonious, and being harmonious, working on this together. You may not get everything that you want, but you may get some of what you want. And that's usually how it is when you have people over here, you have people over here. It's about finding that sweet spot. And I hope that we can find that with this project. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Next is Eleazar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I do want to thank the staff, Kat, your team, everyone on the staff who took the time to really go out into community. One of the first things I said when I sat here is that I wanted to see that that increase, and this project is a prime example of how that happened. We had surveys in multiple languages. We had folks going into community. We had folks knocking on doors when we haven't seen that in the past. We had engagement with diverse nonprofits and community groups, and consistent engagement with folks who do not have the same access as many of us on this table. So thank you. I'm very proud of the fact that we are moving, and I want to see us move even further, and I want to see us continue to implement these community engagement practices, because that's how we end up with a pretty, from all I can tell, a pretty decisive result from community of what they want to see and how we need to move forward on this. I'm also thankful that I didn't have to wait 14 years like Councilmember Slade to see this come forward. One of the comments I remember from Councilmember Now was being action driven and making sure that as a council we're moving forward and moving projects that the community want to see forward. And this is a prime example of us delivering to the community after many years, over a decade of folks having this question unanswered. So I'm just thankful that we're here. I'm thankful that we finally have this vote. I'm thankful for all the work that staff, community members, community leaders, organizations, grassroots groups, everyone has had in this process. It's been much longer than I think necessary. Nonetheless, we're here tonight, and we did get some great engagement with the community and some great information. So with that, I just again say thank you to the staff, thank you to everyone who's involved, and I look forward to voting for this.
Thanks, Eleazar. Next is me, but
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Barbara.
And so, could I ask a couple of questions? I'm
Do
sorry.
you need Kat or Trish or both?
It's like both. Y'all done had a good little rest. Come on over here. I want to just kind of, I've heard, we all have heard mention of potentially the narrowness of the survey, bias maybe, in the survey. And I think it's my understanding that, we use questions from 2009 conceptual master plan. We didn't have anything else, right? So this literally was our starting point. Am I correct? I mean, I guess we could have used other questions, but I mean, I just trying to bring clarity, for the public and everybody about, just how these questions, kind of got pulled out for the survey.
I mean, I think that we wanted it to be as neutral as possible, and so making the comparison, doing things as similarly as possible, seemed to make sense. I mean, in 2009, demographic questions were not included. That would be something different, but generally speaking, I think we used pretty much all the same questions that the 2009 survey offered. We pulled them directly from the plan, and we always said that we were going to use the conceptual master plan really as the outline, the guidance. So, and in the verbiage as well, describing the alignments was directly from the plan.
And did those questions come through the consultant from that time?
Greenway's
was it
Inc.
Greenway's
Yeah.
Inc. So that came from them. Okay.
Yes.
You're finished. And for Trish, I'm thinking about funding and all the different questions that came up around, funding a Greenway. I know there's federal, and then there's local. But then the question came up potentially about Greenway maintenance, from some of our community members and concerns around that. And if there's any insight you have around that, that would be helpful. I guess once it would be on the ground, and if it needed repairs in the future, you understand. You're Trish McGuire. You got it.
Well, the CIP process that we have does have a ongoing costs associated with projects, and so that is evaluated when the town is planning for capital projects. So, so that will be part of the consideration moving forward, is what does it take to take care of this improvement, as it comes something, just as we have done with the other greenways that we've developed and the ones that we're planning that are moving towards construction. So am I answering your question?
And the history of maintenance of the greenways has fallen where? Where's the costs for the maintenance of the existing ones?
Public Works takes care of maintaining greenways. So there are repairs that have to happen sometimes when the Phase 1A Greenway, which is the Wilson Park multi-use path, was constructed. There was a big storm event right after it had been constructed, and there was damage to the edge of it. It needed to be repaired. Those things happen, and as we know, a tree fell on the bridge for the Chapel Hill High School multi-use path and has damaged the structure. And we're working on the process of repairs, getting scheduled for that. So that is part of these types of improvements. They do have maintenance requirements and repairs.
Yeah, and it was just for clarity. That's it.
Yep.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Trish. Thanks for coming up again. I appreciate all the comments from my colleagues. And I guess similar to what Sammy said, the points have mainly been covered here, I feel like, and I don't have to do a lot of repeating of points, and so I will not. Although the one thing I will be sure to repeat is the thanks to staff from all of our departments, led by Kat and Trish, to respond to direction from the council. It was certainly on the council for not moving it as quickly as we should have, and I appreciate Sammy for describing that history of lumbering our way toward finally moving something ahead to answer this one remaining question in the adopted plan. So I also want to just thank the people who came out to speak tonight, but also all the people who completed the survey and went to the events and have emailed us. I've been now on the council for over 10 years, and we've been getting emails about this project since the time I joined the council, and certainly even before that when I served on advisory boards that discussed the Greenway projects. And so all of the input has been important for me as my thoughts and thinking has evolved, just as Susan described. Susan laid out so much of, I think, what motivates my own thinking about this that it's hard to, even do it justice. And so thank you, Susan, for the summary. And I also just want to repeat my thanks to Sammy for emphasizing the importance of actually following through as a council when we say we want something done. And this is one of those examples, as Sammy said, where the council in 2009 made clear what its direction was, but then didn't hold itself up to doing that. And I'm just appreciative of my colleagues on this council for being willing to actually finally follow through on that, and to the staff on making it happen and actually doing what we asked, which is what happened in this case. Finally, I just want to thank Danny specifically on raising the questions that have come up around the permitting requirements through the state, and in particular the Jordan Lake rules. You asked some really good clarifying questions in my mind for Trish earlier. And in particular, just pointing to the fact that there are examples very nearby, including in Carrboro and in Chapel Hill, on the very same body of water, that have had to go through the exact same permitting requirements that this project will have to go through once it's pushed forward through the next stages of the process. As Trish said, these permitting approvals are done by the state through very well-defined processes. That was what happened with Phase 1B, the Chapel Hill High School multi-use path. It was approved. That is presumably what happened in the most recently built segment of Chapel Hill's Bowling Creek Greenway. Again, just a quarter mile downstream on the same body of water, approved through these permitting processes that are there to ensure that we are protecting water quality and that we're having a minimal impact in a way that does not exacerbate problems in that stream buffer. There are examples of paved greenways all over the triangle within the Jordan Lake watershed that have had to go through this exact same permitting process. There are paved greenway projects going all the way west to Guilford County, portions of which are in the Jordan Lake watershed that have to go through the same permitting requirements as this project will have to do, and as the Bowling Creek Greenway project has done in the phases that have been completed. So I think it's important for us to be clear about that point. Yes, there are rules, and yes, we follow them. and we will continue to do so as we continue building out these projects and other ones in the future. I had some prepared comments, which I guess I'll just march through really quickly here. I just wanted to say that we know that this corridor is and will continue to be used as a sewer easement. It will continue to be cleared and maintained as an access road for that purpose. We know that this corridor is and will continue to be heavily used for recreation and for pedestrian and bicycle transportation. We know that all of this activity has had and continues to have serious impacts in this already altered landscape. Environmental impacts, significant erosion, sedimentation into the creek, resulting in many areas, as we've heard already from council members, in effectively impervious service in many locations. We know that the conditions in the corridor are heavily degraded and have gotten worse. And we can recognize these realities and do better. This latest round of public input, as I said, on top of previous public input over several years through emails, public comments, technical findings from professional site visits and field investigations, the staff's evaluation of any regulatory changes that have happened since the adoption of this plan, as we heard from Trish earlier. All of that, you will not be surprised to hear, has convinced me that providing a greenway trail that is designed and constructed and maintained in a way that maximizes erosion control as required by the Jordan Lake rules and minimizes adverse impacts, perhaps even improves conditions in the corridor, is the way to go. I also believe, as the resolution in our packet states, that the Creekside route is the most successful concept among the other alternatives, including alternatives that folks have been bringing up that weren't in the original consideration or concept plan. It is the most successful route in terms of serving the most Carrboro neighborhoods, providing the greatest recreational and mobility opportunities to the most Carrboro residents, and connecting the most Carrboro residents to schools, parks, jobs, and other destinations. And just one final point, because we've heard this through some emails and other comments over the months and years, that especially since the council directed staff to undertake this public input process on the topic of what's been called a rushed process. And on that point, I just want to say this. If this council had initiated this process 6 months earlier, 12 months earlier, 24 months earlier, I can guarantee you that we would be getting the same heat about rushing the process. In reality, it has now been nearly 14 years since the adoption of this plan and the first direction by the council to obtain more input. Here we are just needing to finally make a decision and approve a conceptual alignment for this last remaining piece of an otherwise fully approved Greenway concept plan. So I thank the staff for helping us to get there and doing it with professionalism and integrity, and my council members for contributing to this productive discussion. If there are no other further comments, I'd like to call the question. Is that okay?
So, just one more point, maybe as a friendly amendment. Chapel Hill is currently undergoing their process extending their greenway towards Estes. And so to whatever degree it makes sense, if, depending on how the vote goes, if staff can communicate with them and coordinate, I think that would make a lot of sense.
Thanks, Amy. That sounds like a proposal for a friendly amendment to the motion. Is that okay with the mover?
Yeah, except that I think we could consider that, like mark that consideration within the next steps for the spring. Just update on coordination with Chapel Hill.
Lazar is a seconder.
Yes.
I'm going to read not the resolution. I'm going to explain what the motion as I understand it to be, which is to adopt the resolution in our packet with the addition that the council directs staff to report back in the spring a description of next steps that would be required for the town to follow up on the selection of this preferred alignment, including coordination with the town of Chapel Hill where needed. Is that correct, Danny?
Sure is.
Lazar?
Correct.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
The motion passes 6-1. All right. Thanks, everyone. All right, next item is matters by council members. Thanks, Tim. We don't have to do that. Sammy.
Just very briefly, firstly, I want to thank you for your expression earlier in the meeting about what's going on in the Middle East. And I just want to offer just a writing something, a very brief resolution to what you spoke, so that the council can consider adopting it. And specifically in terms of advocating, because all the way from the presidency down, I feel like we have a complicity in what's going on, and it's a role that Carrboro has played to represent our community in terms of how we see situations that are so unjust. So
thanks, Sam.
put that on your radar. I'll be reaching out to folks with some language and hopefully consider it.
I think if you can convince the majority of your colleagues to do it, then that's on you. So he'll be reaching out about a potential resolution.
Oh, a resolution. Okay.
Yeah. And we've also got heads up from Eleazar about a potential resolution as well. So you guys have some work to do. Okay. Madam Manager, anything further from staff?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I also wanted to express my gratitude to Kat Lazorko and to Eve Green for their dedication, hard work on this project. The presentation was the end product of a lot of time and effort and preparation leading up to tonight. Was a huge undertaking. Their commitment to this process has been nothing less than impressive, and I want to acknowledge both of them for their outstanding commitment.
So thank you so much, Marie. I appreciate that. And that's a really nice moment to go out on a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Danny, seconded by Eleazar that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Sorry, Dave, I thought you were.